to order and go to Mary for the roll call. Let's see.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'll call the roll. Councilmember Fan,
Here.
Councilmember Montano,
Here.
Councilmember Dominguez,
Here.
Vice Mayor Nunez,
Here.
and Mayor Tran.
Here, thank you very much, Mary. And next up is our Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand where you are. If there's a flag, better. And I'll go ahead and lead the pledge. I encourage all members to please stand as this meeting is open to the public. And we will do our best wherever you are. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the
The flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
nation,
under God,
under God, indivisible,
Indivisible.
liberty and
with
justice
justice
for all.
for all.
With liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, and before we adjourn to closed session, we'll check in with our city attorney, Christopher Diaz.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to know for the council and the public, we'll be considering one item in closed session related to the appeal that's on your agenda tonight. And for the council, there is a separate number, same number as last time. So just call into that phone number. I would ask that you mute and stop your video so that you could essentially engage in the closed session on the phone and it doesn't get picked up on the video.
I'm gonna log off. Well, I know IT will have to make me a panelist again, but I'm gonna log off.
Yeah, and another option is to log out, log back in at your discretion.
So did you say you sent us a separate number to?
Yeah, I'll send it to you again. It's the same one as last time, but I'll send it to you again. If anybody,
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I could text it to you.
Okay,
Thank
thanks
you.
a lot. We'll be right back.
Okay.
Hale.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're back. I want to welcome all members of the community and greater area, wherever you are, sheltering in place, staying safe. Welcome to tonight's Milpitas special city council meeting. I don't recall ever having a special meeting on a Friday evening, but this city council is in great strength to ensure that the city business is conducted, and we're going to have a great meeting, and hopefully it goes all very well. Want to check in here. Everybody seems to be here based on this Zoom platform. With that being said, we just got out of closed session, and I'll look to our city attorney, Christopher Diaz, for any announcements.
Thank you, Mayor. There's nothing to report out of closed session this evening.
Thank you very much, Chris. And next up here, I will go to the approval of agenda. So I'll look for a motion.
A motion to approve the agenda?
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Dominguez. We have a second by Vice Mayor Nunez. All in favor of approval of agenda. We'll go roll call. Councilmember Fan.
Present.
Oh, we're doing the approval of agenda. Approval of agenda.
Oh, aye.
Councilmember Montano. The microphone might be on mute. We'll just check with Councilmember Montano. I know you're there. I see you.
So is there any way that we can postpone the other one, the PowerPoint item?
Item number 2.
Yeah,
Okay.
So I second that.
Okay. Well, it's good enough for me. So we can postpone that.
and this is for the interest of time because,
Okay.
you know, as we already know, been informed about the public comment.
Absolutely. Well, I'll be the third one to support the request by my colleagues, which I
So,
very
so
much.
Councilmember Dominguez can amend her.
Absolutely.
her motion.
Yes, so I will go ahead and move an amendment to the motion to approve the agenda with the deferment of the last item to the next council meeting.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
And Nunez, Councilmember Vice Mayor Nunez had
Yes.
seconded. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
And so I'll start the roll call once again. All in favor, we'll start with Councilmember Fan.
Aye.
Councilmember Montano, back to you.
Aye.
Councilmember Dominguez.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Nunez.
Aye.
And then myself, I as well. The motion is carried. The agenda is approved. Moving on to announcement of conflict and interest. Chris?
Thank you, Mayor. I know we asked this question last time, so the responses should be the same, but just wanted to confirm. I'd ask the mayor and council at this time to please disclose any personal or financial conflict of interest related to any of the items on tonight's agenda. Let's start at the end. Councilmember Fan?
None.
Councilmember Montano?
No,
Councilmember Dominguez?
I did receive that contribution from one of the consultants on the project, which is Mark Turner,
Thank
and
you.
during the election for 2018.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Nunez
No.
and Mayor Tran.
Yeah, I just want to check in here. Last 12 months, I have not received any contributions, donations. Haven't really been campaigning. But I got a phone call today from one of my many great supporters in Milpitas. I'm not going to say which neighborhood, but I really appreciate all my supporters that are tuning in right now. And I'd like to report a donation a couple years ago, which is documented. under the small limits that we have. I think out of transparency, the applicant consultant's wife donated, I believe, $100, a couple years ago. So I do want to give a shout out to my supporters out there who are tuning in to state that, and also the applicant, the owner of the site that we'll be looking at tonight on the agenda. I believe there's a contribution from him a couple years ago. I had a treasurer at the time. My treasurer is no longer with me, so I'm my own treasurer, but I'll have to review my forms to see where the fundraising left off a couple years ago. But I'm not here to talk about campaigning. And so that'll be my statement for this.
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor. So I would just note for the council, with regard to that first question, it's truly about conflict of interest. And so I'll note no for all of you. The second question, though, would be applicable to Mayor Tran and Vice Mayor Dominguez.
I'm sorry.
But I'll ask the question again, and we'll just note what you've already noted for the record. So
No, I just want to, as another thing too, my grandma owns a home about a half a mile away.
As long as you have no financial connection to the property, you're fine. If it's just a familial relationship.
Well, I'm not on the will, so I'll leave it at that.
So this latter question would be again about the campaign contribution. So Mayor and Council, please disclose any campaign contribution of 100 or more received within the last 12 months from any party entering into a contract on tonight's agenda, which we have none, or any development project applicant on tonight's agenda, which we do. So we'll start at the end. Councilmember Fan.
Not for any council race.
Perfect. That's a disclosure requirement for a council race, not any other race. So thank you. Councilmember Montana.
No.
Thank you. Councilmember Dominguez, we have your notation, so thank you for that. Vice Mayor Nunez.
Still no.
Thank you. And Mayor Tran, and we have your notation as well, even though that's
Appreciate you.
outside of the 12 months window. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris. Moving on down here to public forum. I will first go to our city attorney, as we are in a new temporary normal. I like to throw in the word temporary. So Chris, would you please help us all?
Perfect. Thank you, Mayor. So I just wanted to note some information for the council, for the public tonight. As I mentioned on Tuesday evening, it might have been Wednesday morning, the Brown Act does mandate that we allow for the public to address the council on any item on tonight's special meeting agenda. We will be taking public comment on both items, 1, and you have since removed item 2, but we would have taken comments on both items during this public forum. The council will not take any further comment when an agenda item is called, so I would encourage people, if they want to submit a comment now, to do it. With all of that said, the public has a right to comment per the Brown Act. I did want to emphasize that the public hearing has been closed, that any comment submitted tonight will not be part of the legal record, and it will not be considered by the council in their deliberations. So I would encourage residents out there, any member of the public who wants to submit a comment about the hotel appeal, that your time to do so has essentially lapsed. If you wanted to submit a comment tonight, again, it will not be part of the record, and it will not be considered by the city council in their deliberations. And there's also been a lot of questions, I think, from the public about what is included in the record. It is the city's position that anything that's been submitted to the city prior to the close of the public hearing is part of the record. So we've received a lot of emails with questions about whether certain documents are part of the record. If you submitted it to the city before the close of the public hearing, it's considered part of the record in terms of the city's perspective. But with that, we'll go ahead and turn to the public forum, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chris. And I'm going to go ahead and read here on the agenda for folks that may be out there tuning in for the public forum. This is what it says on the agenda. Virtual public comments may be submitted during this public forum on a form from the city website. And the link is on the agenda, which was posted in the most timely way. You can find that on our city website. We'll go now to our city clerk. Mary, do we have any submissions for our public forum?
Yes, Mayor Tran, we do, and I'll be happy to read that aloud. I wanted to inquire of you, is there a particular time limit or is it standard at 3 minutes?
And thank you for asking, Mary. We're going to go 1 minute for the public forum per comment. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So at this time, there's one comment received in the email inbox. I'll read that to you now. This is from Vishalesha Patil. And the comment reads, "No to hotel construction in a residential area of Milpitas. This does no good for our community with highly populated schoolgoers, teens, elders, and women. Safety first." Another comment has arrived. Let me open that. And I will need to time this one at 1 minute. Next comment is from George Tam of Hayward, California. Milpitas City Council, do not approve this project. The interpretation of visual dominance in this project findings can be challenged in court. Therefore, a conditional use permit deviating from the project zone's floor area ratio should not be granted. FAR regulation pertains to controlling building bulk and limiting urban density. These standards have not been fully addressed in city documents as they have incorrectly associated FAR with views. Visual view is irrelevant to FAR regulation based on County of Santa Clara Planning Office's floor area ratio regulations and procedures. Milpitas ordinance and general plan do not offer alternative guidance relating to FAR. Regardless of interpretation, it is incumbent on the applicant to provide accurate photo renderings required to address this standard, not the residents. Renderings submitted do not demonstrate that the proposed development will not create a dominating visual presence per Milpitas ordinance. That's time on that one. Okay, can't turn that off. That's the only other comment, Mayor. There are no other comments in the inbox, so I can't get it to go off.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sorry
I am
about that.
very, no worries. It's a beautiful sound. If actually I didn't change my
There we go. Sorry
alarm
about
in
that,
the
everybody.
mornings to that one.
iPhone.
Yeah, I know. Right? But thank you so much. I know throughout this pandemic, much is asked for the public comments, and you've done a.
There's one more.
Oh, okay.
Would you
Yes,
like
yeah.
me to read that? Okay.
Absolutely, please.
The next one is a comment that just arrived from Jackie Romero. It says, "I would like to request City Council to reassess the handling of public comment must be reassessed. The public has the right to share their comments."
Okay, I see you. Thank you so much, Mary.
Welcome.
Thank you for the public comments and in the public forum, folks tuning in. It's funny. I was just speaking about how challenging this time is for all of us in every city in America and the world. Not every country, but free countries like ours, and it is certainly a challenging time. And so I think we're doing our best, and it's not that easy to do our best because there's a lot of challenges. Even with the platform like Zoom, there are negativities that privacy and those sorts of things. And so I think, Mary, you've been doing a great job, and we're going to continue to look for opportunities to have folks continue to provide public comment. But if you look at Tuesday's meeting we just had, it was a tremendous meeting. Not going to go into the actual comments, but I think that having that meeting go into the wee hours of the night, the longest meeting I've ever had with this building, I think folks are starting to understand now. So I appreciate everybody. And so,
Mayor,
yes.
while you've been speaking,
Oh,
there's
okay.
at least a half a dozen more. There seem to be quite a few incoming while you're speaking.
Okay, let's take it. Let's take it. Transparency. Yeah, absolutely. Folks, thanks for tuning in. Yeah.
I'm going to read as many as I can, and if it becomes necessary, I am going to call upon the Deputy City Clerk to share these reading duties with me.
Fully understandable.
I see more than half a dozen here, so let me get started with you. And I believe you said it's a one
Yeah.
minute.
1 minute, folks. All everybody tuning in out there. I see folks on YouTube, 60 people, and then Facebook as well.
Okay, if I.
Yes, please.
I already read Jackie Romero, so let me go back. Okay, the next comment is from Ariyaran Jain. This developer mentioned briefly about reducing the number of floors to 4. However, the entire presentation showed the number of floors as 5. Why didn't the developer show the updated renderings with reduced number of floors, the updated number of rooms, the revised FAR? Please request the developer to submit updated plans and to have them reviewed. Next is from Gilbert Chang, Fremont, California.
Oh.
I oppose the hotel project. Please allow more time for comments. Next from Prabhu Pabil. No to hotel at a residential area. As a parent of young children, I am very much against it. Please consider the voice of a concerned parent over business. Next comes from Ray Nario, 908 La Palma Place, Milpitas. Time to put this issue to rest. The latest and blitz by the developer makes it look like the area next to the proposed site is devoid of housing. No, no, no to this development. Next comes from Lisa Moreno of Milpitas. What is city doing for homeless?
Hmm.
Okay, same one again. Next is from Betty Zhang of Tramway Drive. The hotel should be allowed to be built. I walk and drive by the empty building. It is covered with graffiti. Homeless live in the bushes by the freeway. A hotel will be much better than what we have now. It will provide tax dollars and you will get rid of this building that attracts bad elements. Next is from Shem Liang, 807 De Anza Court, Milpitas. I live here for more than 20 years and I walk my dog every day at the Hetch Hetchy Trail. This is a quiet neighborhood and I pretty much know everybody at the trail. A hotel in this quiet neighborhood will bring in a lot of strangers. I don't feel safe anymore. The hotel will disturb the quality of life in our neighborhood. It does not belong here. Hotel belongs to the industrial park where it is designated for tax generation purposes. Please do not ruin our peaceful neighborhood. Vote no on this hotel. Please do not disappoint your voters. Thanks. Shem. Next is from Isaac Jones, 904.
Jones. Good.
It says Jones, 904 La Palma Place. Greetings, City Council. I am a student at Milpitas High School. I walk to school every morning with my parents and we have almost been run over multiple times by impatient drivers sitting for 10 minutes at the intersection of Hillview and Jacqueline. Travelers trying to leave the hotel will make this much worse. For the health of Milpitas children, please consider your actions carefully. I recommend voting no to the hotel. Thank you, Isaac Jones. Next comes from Michaela Parrish. Our city can't take the back seat on homeless situation. Next one is from Robert Glastra, 1314 Chupon Ave, Milpitas. I fully support this item. Next comes from Varun Rai, Kaiser Street. Allowing a hotel to be established so close to a residential area where our kids are walking to school poses huge security risk. It's a pity that after multiple debates, the case has not been adjudicated in favor of the community, which the council and city is constituted of, and its first duty to protect the interests of its citizens. The ongoing pandemic should be a wake-up call. Imagine the increase in risk due to a floating population residing so close to the residential area. I sincerely hope the City Council will take a position that protects the interests of its neighbors. I have complete trust in our elected officials. Varun. Next comes from Corina Chang, 944 La Palma Place. Thank you, City Council members. I appreciate your hard work. Please uphold your vision established in the general plan to rezone this property to neighborhood commercial, which does not allow for the site to be developed for hotel motel use. Please reject the proposal. Thank you, Corina Chang. Next comes from Madison Moreno. Please help our homeless now. Everyone should have a home. Next comes from Kamakshi Chandrasekaran. I am 70 years old and live very close to the proposed hotel. Please say no to this hotel. This hotel does not belong in our neighborhood and will impact quality of life. The hill views cause me happiness, and this proposed hotel is going to block my hotel views. I have vertigo health issues, and the noise of construction will cause me trouble. Aren't hotels supposed to be part of industrial neighborhood? Please listen to the residents and vote no. Next comes from Brian Jew. I oppose the hotel, as building a hotel so close to residential housing has a negative intangible effect to the morale and well-being of the community. I support a hotel in Milpitas, but further away from residential areas and in a commercial or industrial area. Next is from Leslie Anderson, 384 Louise Court. No to the hotel, listening to your planning commission and Milpitas Children's. The hotel will bring crime. There is no space for parking. Do not change the zoning if this property. Next comes from Janine M. Please be proactive in addressing the homeless community. Next from Rosa Nguyen, 1259 Torres Ave. During school year, the traffic is horrible near the intersection of Hillview and Jacqueline. I can't imagine more business being brought into this part of the city. I'm concerned with not just more traffic, but more noise, more pollution, more accidents, more crime. I highly oppose of this project. Thank you, Rosa Nguyen. Holy smokes, okay. Next one is from Raghav Karnam, 782 Pacheco Drive. The hotel does not belong in the residential neighborhood. The hotel will be visually dominant in the neighborhood. The hotel will create a really bad precedent that other developers will exploit in coming years. The hotel will bring in problems that currently don't exist in the neighborhood, e.g. crime. The hotel will destroy the sense of privacy of the residents in the neighborhood. The hotel will bring in additional traffic to narrow streets already struggling with high traffic. Bear with me, please. There's a lot of them coming in.
Just wanted to reemphasize to the public that these comments will have no bearing on the council's deliberations. Thank you.
So I had a comment. Aren't they supposed to say what city they're from? I think that was part of our deliberation.
I am reading aloud when they provide the city in the email, but some of them are silent on that. I'm going to continue, Mayor. Next is from Srimiti Bhatnagar, 180 Corning Avenue, Milpitas. I vote no to construction of hotel in residential area. Next is Maya Chudari, 864 Del Rio Court. City Council members, I would request to reject the hotel proposal. The hotel does not belong in the community. The traffic and visual dominance conditions for the FAR exception are not satisfied. The structure will be too big. We don't need it here. Next, Michelle Jones, 904 La Palma Place. Residents on Hillview Drive already have great difficulty leaving our driveways each morning from 7:30 to 8:30. The traffic backs up for blocks both north and south of Jacqueline Road every school day for students at MHS, Pomeroy, TRMS, and the community college. Business people staying at the hotel will want to leave at the same time for work and will add to the already horrendous traffic and safety problem. The hotel is also planning insufficient parking. There is no parking for the hotel workers who will then park in front of our houses. We don't want another Starlight Pines parking situation here. Next is from Sam Luong, 822 De Enza Court. I am against the La Quinta Hotel project. I have an 8-year-old daughter who attends Tian Tian Chinese after school, which is right next to the proposed hotel site. I do not feel safe for our neighborhood children with strangers in the neighborhood. Please reject this proposal. Thank you. Next comes from Fisher Tam, Milpitas, California. This project should not be approved. Photo renderings submitted are inaccurate and does not show the whole building. They have not met the requirement for FAR conditional use permit. Their claims regarding crime are not data-driven. They have been deceptive in their ads and online comments. For example, they say on Facebook, no alcohol will be served, but they are still applying. They have made statement on behalf of MUSD regarding Measure AA that have not been verified. Next from Praveen Kumar, Hillview Drive. Please hear the public. We are against the hotel. We have given you multiple arguments, traffic, safety, noise. What more can we provide you which will make you open your eyes and do the right thing? Did we not elect you to represent us? Thanks, Praveen. I'd like to pause now and go to our Deputy City Clerk, Pam. Are you able to come on and unmute your microphone?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, hey, Pam.
Okay. Hi. Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Mr. Vice Mayor. Good evening, council members. Good evening, everyone. So let me go ahead and continue reading. I have one from Justin P. from Milpitas. Item number 1, homeless community needs our help, he says. Next one is from Russ P. from Jacqueline Road. Hello, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is Russ, and my wife and I reside near Jacqueline Road for over 30 years. Each and every one of you council members, including you, Mr. Mayor, were elected by us residents of Milpitas to do what is best for the safety and quality of life of us Milpitians. All of you are put in the position of trust to oversee the city. Here are some items that deserve a valid answer too. What we want to know, where are you going to park the big buses as they drop off visitors to the hotel? Clearly, their website depicts a picture of a big bus. Do you remember there is a municipal code for parking commercial vehicles? We are also concerned about the bus noise. The engines are quite loud and noisy. This cannot be acceptable in a residential area, especially early mornings or later in the evenings. We are also concerned about the preschool and other learning centers. Tian Tian Chinese School, adjacent to this hotel, the preschool is only about 75 feet from the front door of the hotel. The hotel proposes to sell alcohol, a big no-no. They claim there is a happy hour.
That's time. 1 minute on that one, if you'd like to move on, Pam.
Will do. Next one. Next one's from William Tam from Temple Drive. This hotel is a great idea. Who is going to move into this empty building besides the hotel, since we are going into a big recession now? What should we do? Leave it empty to rot? It is sad, but a lot of businesses are going to close soon. If we have a decent company want to move in, let them. Less blight, more jobs. Another one is from Val Narayanan, 489 Altamont Drive in Milpitas. We are residents of Milpitas for the last 30 years in Jacqueline area. We oppose the development of the hotel on that site. It is very close to residential area. The property area should be used as a residential area park for some residential recreation. Another one is from Marshall Jones, 948 La Palma Place. Good evening, council. My family and I appreciate all that you do. I have spent the majority of my life working in hotels and can say that I do not want this near my home. We are challenged already with traffic, homeless, and other elements. This project will not be the savior that we want, but rather a burden on the city due to the traffic, pollution, noise, and other elements. Vote no, thank you. Kavya Medcharla from 782 Pacheco Drive. The hotel will bring in additional traffic to narrow streets already struggling with high traffic. Next one is from Ming Toon, Pacheco Drive. If you do build this hotel, please call it the Milpitas City Hotel. You're ramming it down our throat, and we want to attribute it to you. Credit and blame should go where it belongs. You take responsibility for this foolishness. Ming. Next one is from Rosa Wynn, 1259 Taurus Avenue, Milpitas. I sent in my comment earlier, but didn't put what city I live in. This is to confirm that I live in Milpitas near the intersection of Hillview and Jacqueline. Thanks, Rosa Wynn. Next one is Sheshu Lek, 1230 Tauber Street. We bought home as it's quite neighborhood good. From Laura R. in Milpitas. How can the community help our homeless community now? Is there a way to make sure our Milpitas family can get help? Please create a program designed specifically to Milpitas homelessness. Do we have a program? Next is from AM 859 Founders Lane. I greatly oppose the building of a hotel right next to Kinder Care Learning Center and or across the street from the homes of Milpitas residents. Perhaps there is a property by your own houses that they can build a hotel on, question mark. Next one is from Prashant Sharma, Corning Avenue, Milpitas. I highly say no to construction of hotel in residential area as it will increase crime and traffic. Next one is from Adam, the Anza Court in Milpitas. My dad and a group of concerned citizens did a simple event count from historical Milpitas crime data within 1,000 feet radius of 8 neighborhoods with and without hotels. They discovered that in 2019, all hotel neighborhoods had higher crime events than non-hotel neighborhoods with an average of 5 times higher. Please vote no to this project. Don't destroy our neighborhood. Thanks. Rebecca Chang from Fremont, California, Milpitas council members. I have lived on the east side of 680 for over 40 years from Berryessa area of San Jose to Warm Springs area of Fremont. I am opposed to the hotel project. The stretch of 680 is truly a bedroom community, and a hotel in this area is not appropriate. Respectfully, Rebecca Chang. Next one is Sam Trung, South Hillview Drive. Dear Council, I must congratulate on your bravery. You will be the first city in the country to give a liquor license in a highway service zone. Drink and drive should be put on our city website. After all, you consider alcohol to be an essential highway service. Bravo, Sam. Okay. Kevin Le, 809 Los Positos Drive. Hi, I speak on behalf of my parents, Dung and Diane Le, including myself, Kevin Le. We have been residents of Milpitas for over 19 to 20 years. We do not support this hotel development project because it wouldn't make sense given that we have 2 large hotels, Extended Stay American and Embassy Suites, both next to each other. These are the 2 hotels across the street from Safeway and located next to IHOP. With such close proximity of these 2 large hotels for the surrounding area, it makes no sense to build a 3rd one, just a minute drive from these hotel locations. There has to be another solution for this vacant building to be used for another business, non-hotel. Regards, Kevin May. Next one is from Ranjit Patro. The hotel does not belong in the residential neighborhood. The hotel will be visually dominant in the neighborhood. The hotel will create a really bad precedent that other developers will exploit in coming years. The hotel will bring in problems that currently don't exist in the neighborhood, example given crime. The hotel will destroy the sense of privacy of the residents in the neighborhood. The hotel will bring in additional traffic to narrow streets already struggling with high traffic. Next one is from Justin Le from 1160 Park Court. I, Justin Le, will speak on behalf of my parents, Kwok and Lan, and myself. We have been residents here for over 20 years. We do not support this hotel development project. As you may already know, Milpitas is a small city and we have 2 established hotels already. They are within close proximity. Why do we need another? Milpitas is congested as is, and with another hotel, we are only going to increase traffic. May this vacant building be used for another business, non-hotel, that could increase the value of Milpitas while keeping traffic under control. Best regards, Justin Blake. Oh, just one minute.
How many more emails are there, if I may just check in? Pam?
It keeps coming, Mr. Mayor, as like, you know, it's coming like at least 1 or 2 per.
Okay, sure. Okay, carry on. Carry on.
I think there's about 4 or 5 right now.
Okay, yeah.
If the flow stops, hopefully. Next one is from Raul Edustada. No hotel in our neighborhood. He's from Milpitas. Next one is from Sugandra Agarwal, 288 Oakhurst Way. The hotel does not belong to residential neighborhood. Next one is from Ante Barisevic, 637 Escuela Place in Milpitas. I have lived in Milpitas since 1992 and I oppose the building of the La Quinta Hotel. I am in full agreement with the Planning Commission as the hotel does not foster community pride. Traffic and crime will increase over time. Also, I do not have any personal feelings against the developer. I simply believe this hotel makes no sense in the proposed location. Vote no. Thank you. Next one's from Kapish Kumar, 288 Oakhurst Way. The hotel does not belong in a residential neighborhood. Thomas Lay, 120 Vienna. I do not want any hotel built in Milpitas. Next one is from Ritu Gupta from Pacheco Drive. No hotel in the neighborhood, please. We do not want more traffic. We love the way it is, the residential area. Jessica Lee from Milpitas. I've been a longtime resident in Milpitas and I am totally disappointed in our planning department. Seems there is no planning but only rampant construction. Can you step back and see how many hotels are there in Milpitas? More than 30. Why do we need one more when the hotel industry is asking for handouts and bailouts from the government? And that is it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Pam.
Actually, pardon me, Mayor.
Okay. Mary, I'm having
Mary, we can't hear you.
your
Sorry
microphone.
about that.
Okay, there you
There
go.
is one more I started to read from Mr. Thomas Lee, 120.
Okay. There's 3 more that came.
Yeah, there are more coming. As we're talking to you, additional emails flow in. So let me read the one from Thomas Lee. I don't want any hotel build in Milpitas. Best regards, Thomas. Next, from Jasmine Dow, 908 Canada Drive. Dear Mr. Mayor and City Council members, please listen to and uphold the decision of the Planning Commission and vote no on the hotel development. The additional evidence and research provided by Milpitas citizens illustrates the dishonesty of the developer. The developer has provided false testimonies, not from residents, but from Joe's friends and cohorts. They have provided inaccurate and misleading plans. The citizens and residents of Milpitas are watching very closely. A yes vote will reflect a yes to corruption, a yes to dishonesty, and a yes to special interests. The hotel, we downgrade the quality of the city. Please do not replace the iconic clock tower with hotel that will be not only an eyesore, but a symbol of disgrace and dishonesty. Please make the right decision and support the families of Milpitas, and please vote no. Kind regards, Jasmine Dow. Next, from Vidya K. Please vote no for this hotel. The applicant is not providing facts. Traffic comparisons to when GY was not in existence is incorrect. Business that serve community will vanish. Like the 2 schools, we voted you to serve us. We have 2,500 plus signatures to oppose hotel. If you cannot factor that, then you are telling us our voices don't matter. Please listen to us. We don't want this hotel in a residential neighborhood in Milpitas. Next, Margaret Anderson, 384 Louise Court. Every comment has said no. Listen to the residents who elected you. From Lokesh Gopal, 29 Jacqueline Circle. This hotel does not belong in a residential neighborhood. The hotel will be visually dominant in the neighborhood. The hotel will create a really bad precedent that other developers will exploit in coming years. The hotel will bring in problems that currently don't exist in a neighborhood, e.g. crime. The hotel will destroy the sense of privacy of the residents of the neighborhood. The hotel will bring in additional traffic to narrow streets already struggling with high traffic. Next, from Thomas Lee, 215 Valmy Street, Milpitas. I don't want any hotel built in Milpitas. Thank you, Thomas. Next, from Rosh Gunatileka, Milpitas. No to a hotel. This area is congested from school traffic. Kids' safety is an issue even now. I sit daily in the traffic during the school year. Secondly, you have to take our community safety, family safety, and quality of life. We have grown too fast already. Hope you vote no. The next one is a lengthy comment, so I will time it. 1 minute. Next comment is from Conrad Shapira, 665 Aberdeen Court. Mayor and City Council members, I fully support the proposed hotel project at 1000 Jacqueline Road, less the alcohol permit. I do so living in a neighborhood, Gill Park, near the proposed hotel project. This project does many things for Milpitas. It would be a visual gateway entrance from South 680 into Northeast Milpitas. It will bring much value TOT revenue. These TOT funds would allow the city to fund projects that the residents have suggested through Nextdoor. However, these residents do not offer suggestions on how to fund their desired projects. Yet they seem to be non-supportive of the hotel project. It would keep the current building from sitting vacant for an extended period of time, potentially attracting issues into the building and surrounding business park. A question to ask the developer, is it possible to divide the parking lot of the existing business park to have the kinder care, the business of 870 Hillview and 99 Jacqueline enter and exit onto Hillview? There is more, but I've hit the 1 minute mark on that one.
Okay.
Next comes from Promila Jindal, 814 Pacheco Drive. No hotel in our neighborhood, please. Already struggling with heavy traffic. We want our residential area beautiful and clear as much as possible. Next from Tai Shea, Jacqueline Circle. I plan to use the same color and tiles that our planning department says will not create a visual dominance. Can I also change my building to a 5-story building? This rule should be applicable to everyone. Next from Feng Huan, Milpitas resident. As a longtime Milpitas resident, I would like to express that my entire family strongly oppose the 5-story La Quinta Hotel project build on Jacqueline Road. Please vote no on this hotel. Next comes from Tepish Kumar, 288 Oakhurst Way. We do not want another hotel in Milpitas. There are too many of them. La Quinta will create more harm than safety. Next from Rupa Gadham, 29 Jacqueline Circle, Milpitas. The hotel does not belong in the residential neighborhood. The hotel will be visually dominant in the neighborhood. The hotel will create a really bad precedent that other developers will exploit in coming years. The hotel will bring in problems that currently don't exist in the neighborhood, e.g. crime. The hotel will destroy the sense of privacy of the residents of the neighborhood. The hotel will bring in additional traffic to narrow streets already struggling with high traffic. Next from April Sun, Terfidia Lane, Milpitas. I oppose the construction of the La Quinta Hotel. It's pretty obvious based on the public comments submitted that most of the residents of Milpitas are against this. Council members, please listen to the residents of Milpitas. We don't want this hotel in our neighborhood. Next from Vikash Roy Chowdhury, 2058 Calaveras Road, Milpitas. I would not support La Quinta Hotel in Milpitas due to high volume of traffic. Next from Robert Conroy. Hotel will bring business. Business equals jobs. It equals tax revenue. It is a win for the community. Don't be short-sighted. Next from Davinder Gupta, Pacheco Drive. No hotel in our neighborhood. We don't want it. Let's keep our beautiful neighborhood as is. I live on Hillview. Next comes from Jennifer Chen, Milpitas, California. Dear Mr. Mayor, City Council, unfortunately, those who are in support of the hotel will not necessarily go out and make the voice heard. I urge you to consider that, unlike what they may claim, Better Milpitas or groups like it do not represent all of us. We support the new hotel. Next, from Kavya Medcharla, 782 Pacheco Drive. The hotel will bring in additional traffic to narrow streets already struggling with high traffic. Next, I'm going to time at 1 minute, comes from Renee of Daniel Court. Hi, my name is Renee and I live in Milpitas for over 25 years. Please hear my concerns and vote no on the hotel. Cigarettes. Here in Milpitas, we have a 25-foot non-smoking municipal code in place. With travelers from outside the area, hotel visitors will not be aware of that mandatory restriction, and this will create a chronic problem with people smoking too close to a preschool and learning center. Marijuana is now legal in California. Does the preschool children have to smell someone's medicinal marijuana smoke when they play outside? What about the easement they supposedly share with other owners on this property? Have they produced the agreement on paper and have you seen it? Gas station. Loop gas station is located on Jacqueline Road and many times cars are lined up to get gas. This can create another problem on Jacqueline Road as traffic waits to turn into the hotel. It will impede traffic on Jacqueline Road. There are too many problems that this, okay, that's 1 minute for that one. Next one comes from Flora Carlos, 788 Las Lomas Drive. No for hire. Next from Jonathan Hong, 1308 Fontainebleau Ave, Milpitas. You skipped reading my comment. Here is a concise version. I do not support the hotel development, even more so finding out on the publicly available California Form 460 of Rich Tran and Anthony Phan. Rich received at least $500 in campaign contributions in 2018, and Anthony Phan received at least $3,250 in campaign contributions for his 2020 Assembly campaign. In addition, Karina at the beginning of this meeting did not state how much she received in contributions from these hotel developers. Next from Rex P, 807 Pacheco Drive. I thought only people who have not had an opportunity to comment are allowed to send in comments today. For example, Conrad Shapiro, who is pro-hotel, already sent in 2 voicemails during the last meeting, and today you just read a comment. Is that okay? My vote is a big no on the hotel. Next, from Jason Swanson, Penitencia. I am against the hotel. With a name like La Quinta, it will probably attract bad hombres that President Trump described. Also, with all the tech companies around here, it will probably attract foreigners.
You know, I don't like that. I don't like that comment. I think you ought to just stop that right there.
There's more comment and I'm not going to read it. The rest
And I
of
want
it
you to
is,
write that person's name down.
I certainly will.
Thank you.
That's right.
Okay, there's more to that
Thank
one
you,
that is not
Councilmember.
appropriate for me to read.
Yeah, Mary, if there's
that.
anything that, I know you're gonna take a look
Yeah.
at it, but if there's
No.
anything that makes you uncomfortable, I fully support you to do
Thank
what's
you.
in your, yes, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Mhm. Okay, next comment that has arrived is from Sabrina Ahmad, 690 Princess Place, Milpitas. Dear Milpitas City Council members, we are not in favor of building a hotel in this residential neighborhood. It will bring crime and problems and will block our hillside view for our residents. In addition, it will bring unnecessary traffic congestion to a limited area. Milpitas does not need to be greedy for revenue, and if so, please place the hotel at McCarthy Ranch. There are enough hotels, Executive Inn, Embassy Suites, Crown Plaza, etc., within this Milpitas area. This hotel should not be built on Jacqueline Road. Please listen to Milpitas residents and put Milpitas families first. Best regards. Thank you. And it's multiple members of the same household or address here. Omar Ahmad, Altaf Ahmad, Nuzhat Ahmad, Sabrina Ahmad, Amina Ahmad, the Ahmad family, 40 years, residents of Milpitas. That's the last one, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you so much. And Pam, you're good? I just want to make sure.
I'm good. Mary, one comment actually 2 comments now had arrived.
Yeah, in the moment that we paused, there are at least 3 or 4 more coming in. So I'm going to turn to Pam if the mayor wants to
And
hear
at some
those.
point that you decide to stop the public forum because we could be here all night.
What's that?
I would make a recommendation that at some point we close the public forum because a lot of these comments are repeat and we could be here all night.
Okay, we'll take Pam's, and then any further public comment and during this public forum, I'm going to move it towards the end of the agenda. Is that okay, Chris?
That would be fine.
Okay, good.
There
Next
are
one.
half a dozen more now.
We'll
Actually,
take
no,
Pam's, and then we'll go to, you know what? We'll take Pam's, so and then I'll move all further public comments in this public forum to the end of the meeting.
and I would ask that our
Can
IT
can I make a
turn off the
suggestion?
ability for people to submit comments after we move on.
Can-
to the item.
Can I make a suggestion? Is this possible? Can we take public comment up to a certain time, like for example, 7 o'clock, and that's it?
That's for you, Chris.
Chris?
I think that would be defensible. Yes.
Okay, well,
Let's go 6:50. Let's go. It's on me. I want to say 6:50.
All right,
Will do, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
thank you.
Next one is from, may I go ahead?
Yes, please.
Okay, hold on. Next one is from Cheetah P, 680 Alberta Avenue. No more added traffic and tall buildings in our neighborhood, please. No hotel in our residence area. From Mid Go Pacheco Drive, I sincerely hope our mayor and city council members can put our neighborhood safety, privacy, and quality of life in the first place and seek the best interest of Milpitas residents, not the special interest groups. I strongly urge you to vote no on this hotel. David Wen, 908 Canada Drive, Milpitas. Please listen to the collective voices of the residents and vote no. My family and I have resided in Milpitas for over 30 years. I have also raised my children in the neighborhood. The hotel will be an eyesore and will not bring honor and pride to the city. It is better served by a business that is created towards the betterment of the community and families. The La Quinta Hotel will only downgrade the city and bring shame to the mayor and city council. Please demonstrate your good character and vote no. Ms. City Clerk, did you read the comment from Mr. Omar Ahmad?
No, it was from one of his family members, possibly similar last name,
Okay.
but a different person.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and read this one. For Omar Ahmad from 690 Princess Place. Dear Milpitas Council, we are not in favor of building a hotel in this residential neighborhood. It will bring crime, additional problems, and will block the hillside view for current residents. Furthermore, it will bring unnecessary traffic congestion to an already limited area. Milpitas does not need to be greedy for revenue. If a new hotel is indeed a priority for the city, please build it at McCarthy Ranch. There are enough hotels, Executive Inn, Embassy Suites, Crown Plaza, etc., already on the side of the city. The hotel should not be constructed on Jacqueline Road. As always, please put Milpitas families first and honor this request. Thank you. Best regards. From Dean Bradshaw, 190 West Capitol Avenue. I don't support the La Quinta project so close to a residential neighborhood. This is the wrong location for this project. You're already building one at Tasman and Alder. From Avinash Gandal, corner of Pacheco and Hillview. The hotel will bring problems that we don't in our neighborhood, especially crime. From Gabriel Lumagi. I'm a former co-founder of Raw ASF Superfood Health Bar in Milpitas. At this point in time, I understand that Milpitas is headed toward a good direction under Mayor Rich Tran. I just want to add that Joe has helped many of my colleagues start their own gyms. He comes from a great place of intent and is always looking to help. I really think this could benefit the city as a whole. It passes all regulations and will open the gateway to more businesses for all small businesses in Milpitas. And that is it right now, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Well,
Mr. Mayor,
yeah, we'll go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Chris. You're probably gonna say what I'm gonna say, but go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, so I think we can move on at this point. I would ask IT to leave the ability for people to submit comments, but we won't read them into the record anymore, but they will be here at the meeting, so.
I agree with you, and I'll put that on my kind of as one person to take that initiative to make this a stopping point, if I may, for the public forum. And I'd like to move on to the agenda item. Okay. All right, moving on to our agenda item for tonight. Item number 1, continued from April 7th. If folks are tuning in for the first time this week, it is considering the adopting of a resolution upholding the appeal by adopting a mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring and reporting program in compliance with the California Environmental Quality Act and approving environmental assessment 2. That was 1. 2, a site development permit. 3, conditional use permit to allow demolition of an existing 22,300 square foot commercial building, development of a hotel with up to 105 rooms and up to 5 stories in height. A tower element up to 73 feet in height, a floor area ratio of up to 1.3, and 1 level of below grade parking, relocation of wireless telecommunication equipment to the rooftop of the new building, and on and off premises sale of beer and wine on a 1.14 acre site at 1000 Jacqueline Road. And we'll go to staff.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is Ned Thomas, your planning director, and I'm happy to provide just a brief overview of the project that was presented to you in a little more detail on Tuesday night. If I could have the next slide, please. So just as a reminder, the application is the site development permit for a 105-room business hotel, as described by the mayor in the reading the title of this item. There is also a conditional use permit. The zoning ordinance requires us to allow a hotel use in the highway services zoning district, also to allow a floor area ratio above the base of 0.5. I want to point out that the staff report was incorrect, and we noticed that during the meeting on Tuesday night. We had incorrectly calculated this from a previous submittal at 1.6. The number is actually 1.3. The process is still the same. It still requires a conditional use permit. I did want to make that correction for the record. A conditional use permit is also required for the applicant's request for on sale of alcoholic beverages to guests. This is for a happy hour in the evening at the hotel, and also for the relocation of the wireless telecommunication antennas and equipment to the rooftop of the new building. The application that's before you is actually an appeal. The appeal was filed on January 27th, and the appeal, as was noted on Tuesday night, must be heard by the council within 60 days. The next slide, please. So just to give you an idea, there were 2 previous planning commission meetings held, one in December and one in January, with extensive public comment. And also the reason for 2 different meetings. In the first meeting, the planning commission had requested additional information from the applicant for questions that came up during the back and forth and the deliberation by the planning commission. On the 15th of January, staff again recommended approval of the project. However, the planning commission voted 4-2 to deny the permits, and the grounds for denial were that it was inconsistent with general plan policy 2A.1-17, which deals with fostering community pride and growth through beautification of existing and future development. However, as I mentioned, the staff recommended approval because the project is consistent with a number of other policies in the general plan. As I mentioned, the the applicant then appealed that denial decision. And so eventually the appeal hearing was held on April 7th. This was rescheduled from the March 17th meeting with the applicant's consent, largely because of the current pandemic and the shelter in place order and the need for the city to facilitate a virtual meeting. At the April 7th meeting, extensive public comment was again received. In this case, because it was a virtual meeting, it was received by voicemail, by email, also by video or by audio recording. And comments that came in during the meeting were read by the city clerk and her deputy. At the meeting, just as a reminder, the council voted 5-0 to close the public hearing and continue deliberations at this special council meeting on April 10th. Next slide, please. Just a quick reminder of the project itself. We're located, I think as we all know, at Jacqueline Road. To the east is the I-680 freeway. To the north of the project site is an existing convenience store, gas station, and automatic car wash. The project site has an existing building on it. It's now closed for many years, a gym and an indoor recreation facility. Again, it's the site is surrounded by commercial and office zoning and is developed as such. And then beyond that, a variety of single-family neighborhoods at various densities. Next slide, please. And then the site plan itself, you see the hotel to the south or at the bottom of the screen. It's 105 rooms, up to 5 stories, as was mentioned, a tower element. There's also parking for 105 cars. I believe 30, I don't have the exact number, 36 of those will be located under the hotel in a below grade parking with direct access to the hotel. And then the rest will be in the surface parking lot to the north of the hotel. It also includes a number of site upgrades and landscaping consistent with the La Quinta brand that is proposed for the hotel. And as I mentioned, the FAR of this hotel would be 1.3 under the current design. Next slide. And here is the hotel. I went over most of this. This gives you a little bit more detail. The building itself is approximately an average of 56 feet in height. About 28% of the building is made up of this tower that we refer to as a tower. It's a little bit higher than the building itself. That is a parapet, which is just an extension of the wall above the roof line. And that is meant to be a screen for the telecommunication equipment. All of the telecommunication equipment will be hidden or screened behind the parapet wall, as you see here. And as I mentioned, there'll be landscaping and other improvements. Next slide, please. So just really quickly, the findings have been made for this project in accordance with the zoning ordinance. Staff in our review finds it to be consistent with both the general plan and the zoning ordinance. I would add that the hotel use at this site will also be consistent with the use that is proposed under the new general plan update. There are a number of required findings for the conditional use permit to increase the FAR. The first one is that will generate low peak hour traffic. The city's consultants have conducted a traffic study for the site and have which have resulted in 34 peak hour trips in the morning and 41 peak hour trips in the evening. And this is significantly lower than the threshold of 100 peak hour trips that would be considered high, generating high traffic. And also the second finding is that the project will not create a dominating visual prominence. A number of factors that were taken into consideration here is that, as you saw from the site plan, the proposed building is actually set back from Hillview Avenue and Jacqueline Road by more than 250 feet. The proposed project is also surrounded by an existing office park and mature landscaping. And the project is also immediately adjacent to the I-680 freeway, and to the north, it's immediately adjacent to an existing convenience store, gas station, and car wash. There are a number of architectural design features, not just the materials and colors, but also the building itself. The 5th floor is set back from the plane of the building, And the architectural design is contemporary in nature and adds to the beautification of the site next to the freeway. Next slide, please. We always include a slide on environmental review. In this case, the city, through its consultants, conducted environmental assessment in accordance with CEQA. The initial study identified no significant impacts, and so rather than an EIR, a mitigated negative declaration was the appropriate CEQA document for this project. A notice of intent to adopt the mitigated negative declaration was provided to the public in accordance with CEQA. That was done last July, and it was available for public review on the city website for 30 days. No comments were received on either the initial study or the mitigated negative declaration. Because this is a mitigated negative declaration, the approval comes with a monitoring and reporting program for the mitigation measures that were recommended by the consultants for this project to mitigate any potential impacts for the project. Next slide, please. So we are recommending for today to continue your deliberations from the April 7th meeting, to then consider the mitigated negative declaration in accordance with CEQA, and then to adopt the resolution for the 3 entitlements, which include the environmental assessment, the site development permit, and the conditional use permit, as I have described in this report. And that concludes staff's brief overview of the project. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ned, for your continued and dedicated work on this agenda item. I know it's gone through many different levels of our government, and we do so many projects here in Milpitas, and I know under your leadership in your department, we've done a long list of very successful projects throughout all of Milpitas. So I do want to recognize you for your continued work and expertise, if I may, in regards to planning. Okay. So we're going to continue the deliberations from Tuesday's meeting. Do want to thank everybody, city staff and the council, for their dedication and the time and effort and energy and life that everybody's put into this. And so I do want to recognize that before we deliberate. We do have virtual hands, and I am carefully monitoring my Zoom screen here to see if there are any virtual hands for deliberation.
Mayor Tran, do you mind if I provide some just general guidance to the council before I think you guys make your deliberations?
I was just about to go to you, Chris. Go ahead. City Attorney Christopher Diaz.
So thank you. Mayor and Council, I just wanted to give a gentle reminder that the public forum, or public hearing rather, for this item has been closed as of Wednesday morning at about 2 o'clock. It is important that, in your deliberations, that you focus solely on the record prior to the close of the public hearing. You've heard a lot of comment tonight, I think, from the public and from supporters and opposition. Those comments are not to be considered in your deliberations this evening. You should only focus on the record prior to the close of the public hearing. You are free to deliberate at this point, and if you need to ask essentially clarifying questions of staff, of the appellant, you are more than welcome to do so long as those questions are based on the existing record. But I'm happy to answer any questions the council has, and I will be here as you deliberate if you have questions. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris. And we'll let the deliberations commence here on this Friday evening. First up, we have Vice Mayor Bob Nunez.
Thank you. So let me start with questions maybe to staff, if I could, and Steve, if you can direct me to the right persons. And these are based on what I heard Tuesday night. So first, and they're sort of as things were presented. There was quite a few comments about the impact on crime, an increase in crime, and a reference to Nexus report, and comments made by our assistant police chief. And so if somebody is there from our police department as to, because there seem to be conflicting reports. I just wanted to hear from our police department or whoever you think can give us their opinion on the crime. Will it go up? Will it not go up? I've never heard of LexisNexis, so I don't know what value to put into that document. So I'm looking to you, Steve or Ned, to tell me who should answer that.
Sure. That would be from our assistant police chief. If he is online, we'd like to hear from you. And if not, our police chief can weigh in.
And they are here with us. They will be, I'm sure, getting the microphone and such loaded up here. So I do see.
I think they're just given, they're being given access. And
Yeah, they have access. I'm just introduce them here. Okay, we have our police chief, Armando Corpus. Yes, sir.
So good evening, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council. Can you hear me okay? I'll ask you that question first.
Okay.
Yes.
So I will be passing the torch on to the Assistant Police Chief, Kevin Mascusa, in just a moment. I wanted to inform you that the Assistant Police Chief has worked closely with the Planning Commission. He's familiar with the data that's been referenced at the prior council meeting. He's met with neighbors or residents in the adjacent area, so he's very well versed in responding to your questions. So given that, I want to pass this on to the Assistant Police Chief, Kevin Mascusa.
Mr. Mayor, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, your Assistant Police Chief, Kevin Mascusa. So LexisNexis is an application that is associated with our crime data. However, there are some accuracy issues with that data. What I will tell you is that in the presentation that you saw, there were hotel neighborhoods, which I would refer to as business districts, that are a little bit higher in crime. However, when we provide this data, I would like to remind every council member that and the citizens that they receive only the numbers, and in the police department, we actually get the opportunity to review the information behind the crimes, the actual reports. For example, in the Crown Plaza hotel neighborhood area, we are aware of an organized crime group that often comes through there and commits crimes and is not staying at the hotel and is completely unrelated to that hotel. So we view the hotels as a minor impact on public safety and crime. In 2019, in all the hotels, there was very few crimes per each hotel that actually occurred on the property. And we don't believe there's a strong association from the crime occurring in an adjacent neighborhood with the hotel.
Okay, thank you. I also, what I heard was that there was a real difference between our staff report and what was presented with regard to traffic impact. Would that be the police department that would address that, or would that be the consultant or our other staff?
I would refer to the traffic engineer regarding traffic flow for the neighborhood.
Okay.
And if I may, through the mayor, we have Brett Walensky from Hexagon Transportation. He was the city's traffic consultant for this project, and he may be able to answer those questions on specific questions about how the traffic study was done or the results that were, or the conclusions that were made.
Okay, and if you could, before he speaks, then just to frame that for me, that consultant was the city's consultant, was hired by the developer, or just frame that for me if you could.
Sure, I would be happy to. Thank you. So the traffic the traffic study is completed by a sub-consultant to the city's consultant. The CEQA document, all of the environmental review that is done under the California Environmental Quality Act is done by the city as the lead agency. And because we don't have that necessarily have that expertise in-house, we hire a consultant to complete the environmental review document for us. That was done by LSA. They're one of a handful of firms that the city has on contract to complete our environmental review documents for us. And then again, they sub-consultant with Hexagon Transportation. So the report is done on behalf of the city. If we had the time, expertise, and resources to do it, we would do it ourselves, but particularly transportation engineering, transportation studies is a very specialized science. So we turn that over to the professionals who know how to do that. We also have Matthew Wiswell from LSA, who is our primary consultant for this project. Now, I will say, and they can describe this more, but for each type of land use, there is a rate of traffic generation that is used for traffic studies of this sort. And we do this for all of the project, any development project in the city is done this way. In this case, we have the project is a business hotel. And so they can speak a little bit more about how they go about generating the traffic numbers for a business hotel at this location. And then they look at things like how much traffic is coming in and out, at what time of the days will it be coming in and out, and so on and so forth. So, and they, again, do that for the city, and all of that goes into our CEQA document. But unless you need more general information, I may turn it over to Brett to answer any specific questions you might have.
And that's fine.
Not good. Okay.
Yeah, this is Brett Lunsky with Hexagon Transportation Consultants. Can everybody hear me before we start?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So Ned did a fantastic job of providing an overview of what it is we do. But the bottom line is that we look at the city's policies and the congestion management program policies in Santa Clara County, which the city is a part of. And we take those procedures and we follow them. And so the first step in any traffic study is to figure out, how much traffic this project is going to generate. And to do that, we use standard rates, unless there's some reason like that the hotel or that the use is just something weird and there's nothing else like it. In that case, we would do something different. We would go find something that's like it, and we would go out and survey it, and we have to do that multiple times. But if there's something that applies, like this being a hotel, which is a very well-known land use category, what we do is we use the rates that are suggested and have been used by the city in the past and are used by Santa Clara County CMP and pretty much 90% of all the traffic studies that are done in California. So what we did was we pulled those rates. Those are Institute of Transportation Engineers rates. They come from a big book. You pull out the manual and you look and you see, what the independent variable is. And in this case, it's the number of units that there are. And you look at the rates that it generates, and it spits out a number in terms of how many trips this project is going to generate during the AM commute hour and then the PM commute hour. It's the highest 60-minute period. And then you compare that to the thresholds that determine when you need to do a study and when you don't need to do a study. So in this case, it's 100 trips when you definitely need to do a study. And this project in the AM peak hour generates 41 trips. And in the PM peak hour, it's 34 trips. So it's considerably lower than what the threshold is. And that doesn't even consider that there's an existing use on the site. When you consider that, the numbers go far lower. And in fact, if the gym was reopened tomorrow, it's very likely that the gym would generate much more traffic than what the hotel would generate. And so when you look at those things, you come to the conclusion that there can't be an impact. And we knew that sort of right away. And that's why we didn't do an offsite analysis. Now, having said that, just because of the community response, I have ordered traffic counts, and I did do counts out there I did do level of service calculations. I didn't bill the city for any of this, or because it wasn't required, but I wanted to be able to stand up in front of the council and say definitively that we looked at it. And of course, there's no impact, which I knew ahead of time, but I can tell you definitively that when you calc it out, there's no way that it can cause a traffic impact. Now, how we determine that impact is based on the criteria that the city set in terms of how they determine level of service impacts. They have level of service criteria. And when you consider that, there's on the order of 2,500 peak hour trips out at the intersection, and this project's only generating 41 during the highest peak hour, or one trip every 90 seconds, you get a sense of why it just doesn't generate enough traffic to create an impact. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't periods of congestion out there around the school. There definitely are. There's a definite 15 to 20-minute period where the schools are in session, it gets congested. I understand where the neighbors are coming from. That's a legitimate concern. But my job as a traffic consultant is to interpret the city's policies. And so that's what I've done. And I use the methods that are prescribed by the city and the CMP. And when I do all that, the conclusion that I get, and that any traffic consultant would get, is that there is no impact from the project. So I hope that answers your question.
No, it did. So I just have two more questions real quick, Mayor, and then I'm gonna go back to the end of the queue.
Oh, please take your time.
Okay, so number one, what I heard Tuesday was that this would not qualify under the new general plan. And what I heard you say is that this would. And I couldn't find the term that was used last Tuesday, but that this hotel wouldn't fit because there was going to be a change. And so was there a discussion to change the zoning there under the new general plan, and that's changed now? I'm just thinking that's a pretty big distinction or difference.
So I will make a distinction between the zoning ordinance classification, the zoning ordinance classification, and then the general use land use designation. So when we're looking at the general plan, right now the two are pretty much in sync, because our general plan has a highway services land use designation, and we also have a corresponding highway services zoning classification, and the two are in sync. And that makes sense because this particular site and the convenience store to the north are both adjacent to a freeway and a major interchange at Jacqueline Road. And so that is why, years ago, decades ago even, the planners at the time designated this as highway services. And you'll recall at the Tuesday meeting, we saw a couple of aerial photos of historical development of that neighborhood. And before many of the homes were built, this area actually developed for highway services, namely the gas station, and the gym was there. I think it was a racquetball court at the time, because then it was easy access to and from the site. So that's under highway services. But to your question specifically, as we were looking at the general plan update, one of the things we noticed with our current general plan is the city has a lot of general plan land use designations, and it seemed like almost too many. And the highway services land use designation, for example, is almost the same as several other designations. So one of the recommendations from our consultant was to consolidate some of those smaller, I'll call them smaller land use designations into a more general land use designation. In this case, highway services is proposed to be subsumed under a new designation called neighborhood commercial.
That's it.
And then also kind of as note, surrounding this site, there's an office, maybe you can help me, I've forgotten, Lillian, the one that's around it is office, professional office.
Yeah, administrative.
And so and my point being that there are a lot of smaller commercial classifications that are going to be kind of consolidated into larger, more general land use designations. And that's just to sort of, for clarity, I suppose, that our new general plan will be more up-to-date planning, and rather than having so many small designations and they're hard to keep track of, and because they're so similar to one another, it makes sense to consolidate them. So the highway services land use designation will be consolidated under neighborhood commercial, and depending on the location, it may, it will allow a hotel use. And in this case, because we are adjacent to a freeway and adjacent to a major interchange, we would consider that as we look at the land use designation. And then furthermore, once the general plan is updated, we already have in our CIP to update the zoning ordinance, which is long overdue. And when we do areas like this, we would apply new zoning regulations that would then implement the general plan. So we have a general designation, but then the zoning is much more detailed and it will implement that general plan. And in this case, it would allow a hotel use. So I agree, there has been a little bit of confusion around that issue, but definitely in this area, because of its location, a hotel use would be allowed under both the new general plan and the new zoning when it's adopted.
Okay. Then my last question for this round. Is Steve Erickson somebody that's on the line? Steve? No,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I am here.
Okay. I've noticed everybody has said, if you're going to build this, do it over on the McCarthy side of town. Just so happens to be where I live. And I think, Mayor, you mentioned last time that about the Holiday Inn is where students could stay if they're going to be playing against Milpitas High and such. But I remember almost this exact conversation when they were going to put up hotels there on California Circle. And a person saying there's going to be a lot of traffic, there's going to be a higher crime rate, this same exact thing. Well, they have, but we have the Marriott is there. The Holiday Inn is there and open. There's one they're still working on. And I think there's one more going to be up on the corner at some point in time. Have we had time to go and see? Because now we have the KB is up, Waterstone is up. Have we actually had time to go and see and cross-check any of those numbers to see if in fact the traffic went up or not? The crime rate, what that was? I mean, it seems to me that the exact same arguments that are being put up today, we could be checking on in that same area over off California Circle.
Is that a question for me, engineering?
Well, anybody, well, see, because I remember the traffic one, when I brought that up about traffic, because I was standing on the other side of the mic when I brought it up. Steve, you mentioned that after 1 year, is when we would go back and look at the traffic flow to see, what that really, what the impact was. I'm not sure I asked about the crime rates and how we would compare the two, but I'm just thinking, have we been able to do that to say to the community, here's what we thought it would be. It's still there. There hasn't been a major impact or on traffic or something, so we can tell the community, here was our best guess a year ago, and our we did that on California Circle, and it held true, and so we're hoping it does that again. I'm just looking to see if our pattern has been that we were able to do that.
So I think one of the hotels is just recently open. There may still be one that's under construction. Not 100% sure, but to answer the question, no, we have not had a chance to go back and check traffic in the area.
Okay, thank you. So those are all the ones I have now. I was just trying to, the reason I was asking, I see our staff as the professional staff, the ones that I would look towards that would, that have the expertise, the education, the experience. And I just want to make sure I was hearing from them specifically when it came to these kind of items that were in question. So I will have some about the physical building itself, but I'm going to wait till later for that. So thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much, Vice Mayor Nunez. Appreciate you. And kindly ask you to lower your virtual hand here as I really moderate tonight's deliberation. I look to the rest of my colleagues here for ample opportunity to deliberate. Truly an honor to do so for any agenda item at any time here in the great city of Milpitas. Okay, I don't see any virtual hands at this time. Oh, there we go. We're going to go to Council Member Dominguez.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I just have a question because I know the presentation had the actual 5-story, and then there was a slide with the 4-story. I was just wondering, does the FAR, does that change if it goes from a 5 to a 4? And if so, what is that? Thank you.
Yes, I can answer that if through the mayor. Yes, the 5-story building has an FAR of 1.3. And if they were to eliminate the 5th floor, we estimate that the new FAR would be 1.0. And again, in the highway services zoning district, the base density is 0.5. But I want to clarify that going over that base density does not require an exception or a waiver. And I've seen that mentioned a couple of times. It's not an exception or a waiver. The zoning ordinance allows a higher FAR with approval of a conditional use permit. And as I mentioned, I think on Tuesday night, in response to a question from Council Member Montano, the appropriate FAR is largely determined by what type of building and how large of a building will fit on the site. And in this case, much of that is not exclusively, but much of that is driven by the parking. And so because they found a way to fit 105 parking spaces on that site, they use that as kind of a measure. They have 105 rooms. Now, how they distribute those rooms and how that affects the size of the building is another question. But in this case, we're being told that, well, we received an application with a 5-story building with 105 rooms and 5 stories.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Councilmember Dominguez. I kindly request you lower your virtual hand as well. Okay, thank you so much. And then next up with the virtual hand, we have Councilmember Carmen Montano. How you doing?
Doing great, thank you. Thank you, Mayor. So I have one question, and I know it hasn't been discussed from the applicant or from Ned, perhaps the staff. Has there been a hydrology study? Because we have Calera Creek that is pretty nearby. So I was wondering if you had that done, because it's going to be a 5-story building and you're going to have underground parking. And I know there's a huge aquifer in that area because of that creek. We have, like for example, our police department, they have an underground garage, and you'll see they have problems with a lot of the water sort of easing out of the cement walls. And also when they did the VTA underground railway, they had to come up with a pumping station or a pumping some kind of machinery that pumps out the water. So I'm just curious if you had a hydrology study done in that for that, because it is going to be a 5-story building and you're going to have underground parking. So just curious. Thank you. Is that a requirement?
Yeah. Thank you, Councilmember Montano. That's a very good question. And hydrology is one of the 20 or so topics that are studied as part of the preparation of that initial study and mitigated negative declaration that I mentioned. And I will have in a moment our consultant, Matthew Wiswell from LSA, answer your question in a little more detail about whether a study was done. But I would like to preface his remarks by saying that, or clarifying that the low grade parking here will not be fully underground. It's partially underground, and I think it's about 4 feet of that parking will be above. So it's not as low as you may think it will be. It's partially underground, we'll call it. And yes, again, hydrology was studied as part of our environmental review of this project. And Matthew, if you have a moment, if you could describe how your approach to the hydrology section of the CEQA document.
Sure. So good evening, everybody. As Ned said, Matthew Wiswell from LSA. In the hydrology section of the initial study mitigated negative declaration, and I'm referencing page 4-49, you'll see mitigation measure HYD-2. There are a number of bullet points there. The last bullet point says a draft facility, stormwater facility operations and maintenance plan would be required prior to the issuance of building permits. So one will be required, and then I would turn to the applicant to see whether or not one's underway or if they've submitted that.
Yeah, I'm just concerned about the integrity of the structure because if it seeps in the cement, it loses its integrity. So, and then when an earthquake comes, you'll have that liquefaction. So I'm really concerned about that. All right, thank you.
And to speak to liquefaction specifically, geology and soils is another topic within the ISM&D, and a soils report was done and was addressed with standard recommendations from a geotechnical expert.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Montano. Wow.
So is
Appreciate.
You said, is somebody going to speak on that or not sure?
Oh, maybe Matthew, if you can once more. I think Matthew had replied, but if Matthew, if you can reply once again.
Sure. And what was the question specifically?
It was mentioned that there was going to be a plan, a mitigation, a maintenance plan, stormwater facility on the site, and I don't recall that being. I didn't see that anywhere. So is that on? Is it on there?
It's required as a mitigation measure prior to the issuance of the building permit.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And if I may, I don't believe the applicant has applied for a building permit or submitted an application for a building permit yet. They're, of course, waiting to see the result of this deliberation before they proceed with the building permits.
I see. Okay, so that'll come afterwards if it becomes
Mark, Mr. Tiernan may be able to respond, but I would believe that their architect would have looked into that and may have done some preliminary
studies.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
No.
Thank
Mark,
you so much.
You're muted, Mark.
Fantastic. I appreciate the deliberation.
Mr. Mayor, if I could respond.
Yes, why not, right? Yeah.
If that's okay, to answer Councilmember Montano's question. Yeah, we have done some preliminary investigations. We worked with city staff on the conditions of approval, and we're entirely in agreement with what city staff has come up, that there will be a plan put in place to address that issue that you mentioned before we obtain our building permit.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tiernan.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Tiernan.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you very much, Councilmember Montano. And I'll kindly ask you to lower your virtual hand as well. I'll be doing that for all. Next up here with the virtual hand, we have Vice Mayor Nunez. Yes, sir.
Thank you. So this is one for the city attorney. And it goes back to help me understand or define for me community pride.
I would actually defer to planning staff on that general plan policy.
Okay. I think that means you, Ned.
But I will say there is a general plan policy that was a reasoning that the planning commission provided in their decision making. But I would have the director speak to the policy itself and the full language in the policy.
Yeah, if I may, the general plan policy gives a little bit more around the idea of pride. It talks specifically about the improvement and beautification of the site. And I would say that this particular site, again, adjacent to a freeway and adjacent to an interchange, we've referred to it as a major gateway into the city. And I think anyone driving up and down the 680 would say that that's really the first indication that you've arrived in Milpitas, is that you come upon the Jacqueline Road interchange. And by improving this site, and we argued in the staff report, in our analysis, that replacing a 40-year-old building with an obsolete gym use in it and replacing that with a new building with contemporary architecture that makes a statement that you've arrived in Milpitas and that it's a new and growing and dynamic and economically diverse community, that met what we would consider community pride as defined by the general plan. And again, that was specifically stated that was beautification and improvement of a site, a prominent site in the city.
Okay. Okay. And correct me if I'm wrong in how I'm reading this. So I have two questions here. One is the Planning Commission, the recommendation was no being over the recommendation of the staff, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Coming now to the city council, you're recommending approval. Well, maybe not approval. You stayed with the same recommendation.
Yes, our recommendation has been consistent. And I would add that some of the comments that were made at the Planning Commission meeting, I believe these are recorded in the minutes, are that there was a significant amount of public comment that was made, and there was some concern about the proposed development at this site, and that was interpreted as not being in alignment with community pride. And so that was an interpretation that was made by the Planning Commission. And I think because of the appeal was specifically made on the grounds that decision was made not on the testimony the full testimony that was heard at the Planning Commission meeting. And I think that's one of the items that this council is being asked to weigh at this time as an appeal item.
Okay, but what I read into why it's brought up now to us is that whatever was heard, it did not change the opinion of staff.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that. Could you call up your very first slide?
I think so. I'll have to rely upon the IT department. They have the control of the slides. So,
okay. Because I want to make sure I'm not reading too much into something. Your first highlight, which is develop a 105-room business hotel. And I looked at what was being recommended, and it says develop a hotel with up to 105 rooms. Is there a reason there's a difference there? Or am I reading too much into that difference? That one being a 105-room business hotel versus up to 105?
No, I actually think that is a good question, and there is a distinction. And actually, in putting together this slide, this one should have also said up to 105 rooms. And the reason we do that is we want to allow the decision-making body to have some flexibility if you want to go lower than that. And this is just a common practice among planners. so that it's built in. What we don't want to have is a hard and fast 105 room. And then, for example, in this case, when the developer comes, so say you approve that, and then the developer comes for their building permit, and in the fully developing building plans, they discover that they can't do 105 rooms. They actually can only do 104, then, or 100, or whatever it may be. Then we run into a problem, because you would have approved it, kind of as you would have baked in 105 rooms. And
right.
we always like to have a little bit of flexibility at this stage, because we're at the planning permit, the entitlement stage. And things tend to change and move around when we get a little bit more detailed with the building permit. So that's the reason for that difference. But you will notice, if you dig into the resolution, all of those are written as up to 105 rooms, up to 5 stories, up to a certain height, to give you the flexibility as the decision makers in case changes need to be made, and for the developer in case later in the process that changes need to be made.
Okay. So
setting the maximum rather than the hard and fast rule.
Okay, and that's what I was hoping, because I wanted to hopefully listen to more where Councilmember Dominguez was going to go with her questions with regard to that 4th and 5th floor. So I'm done with my questions for now, and see where we go from there. Thank you.
And thank you very much, Vice Mayor. Thank you very much. Deliberations continue. I will look to my colleagues in your requests. Looking for the virtual hands on this Zoom platform. I think the Vice Mayor had Vice Mayor, you had mentioned one of our colleagues. Were you looking for a?
Well, I was just wondering if Councilmember Dominguez was going to ask any more questions about the 4th and 5th floor. If not, I can, but I just wanted to make sure that that language allowed for it is all.
Mayor, may I respond?
Yes, please. Yes.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I guess, yes, Vice Mayor, you are correct. I wanted to just listen in terms of trying to understand the 2 different plans that I feel are before us, right? Which is that 5th floor and 4th floor. And it, Ned, thank you so much. When you said up to 105, then that helped clarify if that 5th floor then is taken out, then obviously there would be more rooms. It's not like they're gonna have to move into that 105 floor plan that has been presented. So that made sense to me. In terms of if that 5th floor is eliminated, would that impact any, because I know there's gonna be the towers, is it the telephone towers that are stationed right behind the building that are gonna be moved around it? Would that be impacted? Or I don't know if there's a layout of the 4th floor on that slide. I know there's one slide. Could we go back to that slide if that's okay, Ned?
Would you like the slide of the elevation of the exterior of the building, or the floor plan?
It was there I thought there was the floor plan with the 4th floor.
So at the meeting on Tuesday night, we had a slide in there for an alternative design.
Yes.
I think I do have it in this presentation. However, the rendering that we have is of 5 floors.
Correct.
But that slide, the other change that was suggested is that you would move what we're calling the tower element. So the tower part of the building, we would move that from the west side of the building to the east side of the building. That was just a suggestion that might, and the reason for that is it would reduce the height of the building on the west side, which is closest to the residential neighborhood. That would have the effect of reducing the height of the building about 20 feet, which is very significant, because if you remove a floor, that's about 10 feet. And then if you move the tower element to the other side of the building, that's an additional 10 to 15 feet above the roof line. So altogether, that would reduce, overall, that would reduce the building. Now, if you move just the tower element and you keep the 5 stories, that still has the effect of reducing the height of the building on the west side closest to Hillview Avenue by about 10 to 15 feet. And if you could, I do have that other slide. It's after the last slide. If you could, Mike, if you could scroll down, next one, and then the next one. Yeah, this is the slide. Oh, back to the other one. There we go. This is the slide that was presented on Tuesday night.
Yes.
And this is showing 5 stories, so it's not quite accurate to what we were, this gives you an idea what it would look like with 5 stories. And then if you can just imagine one less story here, that would give you the 4-story building.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I wanted to add that the footprint of the building stays exactly the same. That tower element is really just an architectural embellishment, if you will, that's added to the building to make it a little bit more striking and to emphasize, and to provide a sign area. And then it's 10 feet, about 10 to 15 feet higher than the rest of the building, again, as a parapet to hide not only the telecommunications equipment, but it also hides the rooftop heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and the top of the stair, the roof access for the fire department. So all of that is hidden behind that pop-up from the top of the building. And I also wanted to clarify that it's my understanding from the applicant, the developer, that if they were to remove the 5th floor, right now it is comprised of several very large, we'll call them family suite rooms, and they would eliminate those, and by reorganizing some of the uses on the ground floor and putting, they would replace some of that with rooms. Then they would still be able to maintain 105 rooms for the hotel, even in a 4-story configuration.
Thank you so much, Ned. You took the next question out, so you definitely are. No, that was the next question that I had, which was if they were suites or regular rooms, and if that would impact the number of rooms in the hotel. I do want to take the time to just thank the developer for providing the 4th floor alternative. I think for me that gives me a lot more information, and so I don't have any additional questions at this time. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Council Member Dominguez. Deliberations are coming along, and I will look to any member that hasn't had the opportunity to deliberate. I think now would be the time to contribute, if you may, to our deliberations. I will go to the chronological virtual hands here, and we're going to go back to Vice Mayor Nunez.
Thank you, Mayor. Even though I have talked, I'm willing to give my spot up if somebody else wants to.
I think everybody will have a chance, so please.
Okay. So with those kinds of changes, I want to make sure I heard you right, Ned, that would be 20 feet lower, correct?
Approximately, that would be on the west side of the building. And I would add too, even on the east side of the building, that if you go with the 4-story alternative, that would be about 10 feet lower than what it would be on the east side of the building adjacent to the freeway. You still would be 10 feet lower.
So if I were driving down the highway there, would I still see? I like when you mentioned the gateway. Whenever somebody says the gateway, I automatically think of 880. I don't think really, I think of the other side, but that sign would still be visible, correct, of the hotel?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And This is actually a good question too, around the question of dominating visual prominence. And
right.
So I think you have to consider the two opposite sides of this particular site. And on one side, yes, we have a residential neighborhood, which I think we all have an interest in protecting. And then, but on the other side, we also have a 6 to 8 lane freeway, a major transportation corridor, not just for Milpitas, but for the region, and connecting us up, through the Tri-Valley area and then down to San Jose and beyond. And so on the one hand, where you want to screen or buffer, whatever we want to call it, on the residential side, and I think that is demonstrated, that is achieved by the existing buildings, and particularly the mature landscaping that is there. That's effectively done on that side, which you want to see. But on the other side, I think if you're implying, I think it's correct that you actually do want to have a hotel seen from a freeway. That's what makes this site particularly attractive as a site for this type of a use. And to the matter of a gateway, as you come down the 680, you're correct. You drive through Fremont and you drive into Milpitas, and other than the sign, oh, we're at Jacqueline, and if you know that Jacqueline is in Milpitas, then you would know you have arrived. But this type of a new building with a contemporary design, I would, beauty is always in the eye of the beholder, but I would say an attractive tower element and modern colors and materials, it makes much more of a statement than a 40-year-old building of a different style with no windows. And it was built in a different era and it was built for a different use. But I think all things being equal, I don't think anyone would argue that the proposed building style, I'm not particularly talking about the height, but the style and the building is not an improvement over a much older building. And it definitely makes a statement that it will make a statement, or it would make a statement that you've arrived in Milpitas, because you would see this, what would become essentially a new landmark. Some might argue that the existing clock tower is a landmark. It's not as easily visible from the freeway though. And so that comes into consideration for your question as well.
Okay, as I recall, there was a dollar amount mentioned last Tuesday that would go towards art, correct? 300,000?
On that one, we didn't give a number because it's based on the valuation of the building, and that would be done at the building permit stage once the detailed plans are created and submitted to the city. And it's 0.5% of the valuation. Is that correct, Lillian? It goes to the art fund. And then the amount that you're discussing, the 300, Lillian, you'll have to remind me the exact amount, but that would go to the city's affordable housing fund, because as part of our affordable housing ordinance, we have that linkage fee that not only residential development, but also commercial developments, which theoretically induce the need for additional housing in the community. Then we have that linkage fee, which is it 5 cents per square foot, Lily? See, I know just
$6 a square foot effective July 1st of this year.
So that would also be paid into the affordable housing fund.
Okay.
And then there are also other fees that are paid, such as parks fees, that are also based on the valuation of the building, and then other fees, building permit fees, and so on and so forth.
Excellent. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. Appreciate you. And next up, we have Councilmember Carmen Montano.
Thank you, Mayor Tran. One of the questions I had was, well, actually it's a clarifying question, and this has to do with the FAR. So if what I'm hearing is that the developer is willing to go 4 stories instead of 5 stories, correct?
That was voted, and they said they were willing to consider that as an option for this site.
To consider, and that means that the FAR ratio would just decrease, and the parking spaces would increase. So that would it still be 105 parking spaces?
So We haven't looked at the parking, but if they have 105 rooms in the hotel, they would be required to provide 105 parking spaces. If they go fewer rooms, then it would be fewer spaces. But yes, but the larger question, if they reduce the size of the building and that floor, then the floor area ratio goes from the 5-story option is about 1.3 FAR, and if you lop off about, I don't know how many, I've lost the exact number, but it will decrease the FAR to 1.0.
And it'll create more opportunity for more parking spaces.
Just to clarify, so the parking isn't necessarily tied to the FAR, it's tied directly to the number of rooms.
Okay. So how many rooms would that be if they knock off the 5th floor?
So I believe that they would be able to rearrange the uses on the ground floor and find space for the rooms that are lost from the 5th floor would be moved to the other areas of the building. So whereas now, I don't know what that would look like. It's internal to the building, and we would look at that as part of the building permit phase. But for example, they might have a smaller exercise room, or they might have a smaller meeting room, and that space would be converted, or rather than as currently proposed, there's a couple of large meeting rooms. There's a large pool area, a large exercise room, and some of that space would be used for guest rooms rather than common area.
I see. Okay, yeah, I'm just concerned that these are just the rooms for the tenants, for the visitors that visit, but I don't know if the workers were factored in, for the parking, the ones that, what they call housekeeping, all the workers, where would they park? So I don't know if that was included, factored in there. So that was the one question on that. So anyhow,
I can
did you want to elaborate on that?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to step in, just a little bit. So the parking rate is in the zoning ordinance, and when it's put together, when the parking rate is calculated, it includes it includes enough, theoretically it includes enough to accommodate the workers for the hotel. And specifically what I mean by that is a typical hotel will, at any given time, will have an occupancy of about 80%. So if you have 105 rooms and 105 parking spaces,
I see. Okay.
you only need about 80% of those parking spaces. And then in addition to that, the rate takes into account that some of the guests may arrive by taxi, or some of the guests may arrive, you may have a group that arrives in one car or one vehicle that's sharing that is in 2 rooms. So when it all averages out, then you have enough to cover the guests staying in the hotel at any given night and the workers. And then of course the workers are usually there during the day when the guests are not there. So it's kind of you could consider it a shared parking arrangement, because the same parking spaces that are used by the guests in the evening are then used by your workers in the day. And that's just managed by the ebb and the flow of people coming to the hotel.
So 80%, it's not 100%, but there will be some times when it will be 100%, when you have the games at the 49er Stadium, they're always packed. So in that case, there would be an overflow of parking, and I'm afraid some of them might park in the neighborhoods. So yeah, just what mitigating factors would you put in so that they won't park in the neighborhood?
I think that has been a constant concern raised by the neighborhood, and I do think it's a valid concern. The parking is very, would be tight, I'll call it, but the fact is that the proposed use meets the parking standard of the city, and maybe the city attorney would weigh on that, but we cannot require more parking than our standard requires. Now, with that said, I think that there could be a discussion around the idea of if you had a situation where the hotel was fully occupied and they anticipated that, then they could make an arrangement to have valet parking offsite. I know this is used in many hotels around the day, when in some areas the other communities, for example, their zoning ordinance might allow less than one parking space per room. It's not uncommon nowadays with people using Uber and Lyft for
Correct, yeah, that's
the
true.
hotel to be 0.8 per room. And in that case, if you have an overflow of parking, the hotel managers will have made an arrangement for the valet to park that off-site. And and by off-site, I don't mean in the neighborhood by any means. They would then maybe, we have additional parking not too far from this area down here at Town Center, by the Safeway or by the 24-hour fitness. Some of the other hotels neighborhood of the business parks, the hotel management would work out a plan for having the valet park to take the cars offsite and bring them back and forth so that they don't park in the neighborhood. That I will add, that has not been discussed, but that is
Right.
one method that could
Yeah,
be.
yeah, that's pretty creative. Yeah, they'll come up with a plan. The other question that I wanted to ask was traffic. And now I know that Mr. Tiernan on Tuesday mentioned that there was going to be a new high school built. However, he didn't mention that it wasn't going to be a comprehensive high school. Now, comprehensive high school is grades 9 through 12. From my understanding, the school district is not going to build a comprehensive high school. They're going to build a adult park. So that will not that will not ease the traffic. So unless he wanted, Mr. Tiernan, unless you wanted to say something on that issue.
Mr. Mayor, if I could.
Yes, please.
So as the bond issue that was passed by the Milpitas Unified School District, I believe was passed in 2018. One of the
Yes.
things, when you
2 years ago.
when you Google that, one of the first, and we had a slide that showed that in our presentation on Tuesday, one of the stated goals was to erect a second high school campus. Now, whether or not it's from 9 to 12 or 11 to 12, or it's a charter school or whatever it possibly is, the thinking has been that because many students come from the south part of town along Park Victoria, they come down Jacqueline or they come up Hillview, that if there was a second high school available, generally the planning has been at the old Samuel Air High School, that would result in some reduced traffic coming from South Milpitas, either down Park Victoria or down Hillview, down Jacqueline to Escuela Parkway. It only is logical to make that sort of a finding, in our opinion.
Yeah, well, that's if they come in through other routes, but the high school is off on Jacqueline and Escuela, so that's the logical route that most people would take.
Well,
to go
excuse
to there.
but many of the residences have really concerns about the traffic in Hillview, and all the traffic that comes from Calveras north on Hillview up to Jacqueline, a lot of that are parents or students taking their kids to the high school. There's also a lot of that traffic is people wanting to make the right turn to get on 680. But I think it's fair to say that there would be a reduction in school traffic coming down Hillview once the second high school is opened.
Yeah, there will be some, but again, it all depends what type of high school will be built.
And you're absolutely correct, but I think as the traffic report has shown, there's a 46% decrease. And with the number of trips that the consultant from Hexagon stated, my sense of this is that that's not an impact that would be considered significant at all.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
Thank you, council member.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Montano. I see your virtual hand.
Oh, you turn it off.
Yes, please, please. And I want to check in with Matthew. I just want to make sure if you, do you want to comment, Matthew?
No, I don't have anything to add right now. I apologize if I have a hand up.
Oh, no worries. I'm just doing my best. I guess I'll take a moment here. We're talking about parking there at the proposed location. And I think I heard someone say something about valet parking for the La Quinta. Is that a part of La Quinta's plan to do valet parking with a partner in the community with a parking lot?
Oh,
If I can answer that, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, anybody, yeah.
Or Ned, well, let me take a stab at that. You're bringing up a hypothetical situation when we have already met the standard for parking required by the city of Milpitas. So we can talk about hypothetical situations and we can give you our best answer. For example, there was a question on Tuesday if a high school team was going to come to play a championship football game against Milpitas High School, which we have a tremendous high school football team under Coach King. If they came to Milpitas and they wanted to stay in the La Quinta Hotel and they brought their big team bus, well, there's generally 40 to 50 kids on a team. They would be taking somewhere between 20 and 25 rooms. And it's our contention that we would be able to use 20 spaces, that 20 or 25 parking spaces that would normally go to individual guests in their rooms. We would be able to make arrangements to accommodate the bus on the surface parking outside the hotel, not underneath the hotel, but outside the hotel. So yes, we can come up with a lot of hypotheticals and we'll be happy to answer those. But the fact remains is that we meet the parking criteria that the city has stated. And you don't get extra points for creating more parking than what the city requires. Now, one hypothetical that we experienced a few years ago is when the Super Bowl came to Santa Clara, and there were a lot of guests staying at all the hotels in the area. In those type of situations, there's advanced notice as to what's coming on, and then general arrangements would be made, and that would be certainly would be a case where we would get valet parking, and we would work with either the town center folks, or we could work with the folks who own golf land across the street. There are all kinds of options. The first priority, though, is not to have any of our guests park in the neighborhoods, period. They will not be allowed to do that, and we will monitor that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tiernan. Yeah, I think it's so great, the economic development of our community. We have so much value in Milpitas that folks, whether it's the Super Bowl or the state championship or math competition, science, technology, engineering as well. Folks come here to from all over the world, I would say, to come to the value that we have in our community. So I think you're right on with that. When I remember, I think about the team, any team traveling, there's going to be boys and girls. And I know a lot of times these teams, soccer, what else we got? Baseball, softball, shout out all softball players. They put two kids to a room, boys in one room on one floor, and you go to just the furthest floors you can, you put the young ladies, cheerleaders or scientists. For the hotel, I know we talk a lot about how many rooms there are. Out of, let's say 105, we'll use that number. And whether it's an adults, even with maybe they're here for business, or they're traveling as a team. I know a lot of companies double up their employees. I know my time in my other job, military, when we go on missions, we double up in a room to save the government money. There's a government rate with hotels like La Quinta. How many of the 105 rooms are double rooms?
Double rooms, in other words, have 2 beds in them.
Yes.
Okay. If I could defer for a second and ask Mr. Gigantino, I don't have that number right in front of me. My sense it's close to 1/3 of the rooms have 2 beds, but I would defer to Mr. Gigantino if he's near his screen.
Yes, hi, Mark. Thanks. I'm grabbing the plans here. Let me see if I could find it on the front. What is, how many?
Yes, we are here. We are here. We will.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we are here. We will ensure you have that information to share throughout
And
this
no,
delivery.
if you, it might take me a minute to get it. So if you guys want to move on to another question, I can grab that for you.
I see Lillian.
I'll keep talking.
Lillian has it.
I see
She
boxes.
doesn't have it, sorry.
Okay, well, I guess my point is, for one room, sometimes there may be 2 vehicles. If there's an operation in place or 2 employees, it's not just folks flying in to our great Santa Clara Valley, which is also our Silicon Valley. There are folks that drive in from Modesto and Sacramento, of course. Our friends that are visitors, I should say, are visitors that are from maybe not another state, but another region over 100 miles. I know a lot of companies, which this hotel is looking to cater to, a lot of companies, if the travel is over 100 miles, they will most typically have their employee stay at a hotel like this fine one that's you're proposing. So I just want to really think about and get some information on how we're going to mitigate some parking if the X number of double rooms do have more than 1 vehicle, whether it be 1.5 vehicles per those double rooms or 2 vehicles per those double rooms. So I just want to get an idea of how many double rooms there are. I don't think we've talked about how many double rooms, double occupancy rooms there are, considering the 105 that's presented.
If I could, Mr. Mayor, respond?
Oh, yes, anybody, yeah, anybody.
Mark, do you mind if I jump in quickly?
Yeah, okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mark. So I just wanted to know for the mayor and council, this project, according to planning staff, does meet the current legal requirements. If you have concerns about the number of parking on this hotel, your solution for that is to not deal with it in this issue or this project, but it would be to change your parking standards through an ordinance change.
All right, here we go. Cool.
And so they are meeting all the legal requirements that the code does set out, and that is their only legal mandate.
Thank you very much, Chris. And I agree with you. Anytime an applicant or any person follows the policies that we have in place, then definitely I will always accept those. But I just, for my awareness, I'd like to understand a little bit of the floor plan in terms of how many are double rooms.
Mr. Mayor, if I could?
Yes, yes, yes.
So in a hotel like La Quinta,
right, so,
when we have special events that come up, we adjust to the crowd that's going to be arriving. So let's say, for example, right now in the plans that Joe is looking through right now to determine how many of the rooms have double or 2 beds in them, 2 queen size beds, and other rooms just have the king size bed. The rooms are the same size for the most part. So if we need to increase the number of rooms that can handle double occupancy, that's easily done. For example, you use the example of a football team coming to play Milpitas.
Science and technology engineering.
Science, technology, theater, speech
Yeah,
and
theater.
debate.
Yep, theater.
All of these very, very important programs for the high school. They're not going to just show up without talking to us.
Of course.
They're going to give us some notice about this is what they're planning, and we could adjust to that. It's very easy for us to take out a king size bed and put in 2 queen beds. So I think in terms of that hypothetical, I think you're getting down into the weeds about hotel management and how we respond to the needs of our guests. I think La Quinta has a great track record of doing that. And we're committed to supporting the school district and the high school. And we would be very amenable to making any adjustments to the rooms that the situation dictates. That should not be seen as an issue.
Thank you very much. Am I going to get that information or?
I'm still working on it, Mayor.
Okay, no worries. I'll move on to my next bullet point here. I have written down. There's nothing more I would like than to have TOT, hotel tax. I've pretty much supported every single hotel project that has come across my way, respectively, as one person throughout my time. And I feel like I was even, and still is, a huge proponent, maybe the #1 proponent of raising the hotel tax, Measure R. Very pleased they chose that letter, but and so, you know, I haven't seen any hotels reach the point or developments as this one has. So I do want to not just support anything, but to take a look at it. I'm getting a lot of complaints over on Hillview and Calaveras over at the other hotels from the residents over by Gill Park. I have my aunt and uncle who do live over there right by Gill Park, actually. And over at the embassy and was it America's Best? I think America's, that hotel there, they got the roundabout there, kind of the cul-de-sac to court, and there's a lot of big rig parking, a lot of truckers that stay at the hotels because they don't have the cab in their truck. Not all truckers have the cab. It's more of a luxury cab for them to sleep in. It's more of a tractor trailer of sorts. I'm kind of stepping aside from the on-site parking allocation that we see with your plan, which meets the legal code. What is the plan for big rigs or truckers, tractor trailers?
They won't be allowed to make a reservation. I mean, the facility's not set up to handle big rigs, period. So that's not part of our marketing plan. It would be too disruptive to the rest of the parking lot. It potentially could be disruptive to the gas station people, the business park, and the neighbors. So big rig trucks that have a cab with a trailer attached are not going to be permitted there. We won't accept reservations from folks who are driving a big rig, because part of the reservation process would mean two things. Number one, they have to have a credit card, and they have to alert us as to the vehicle that they're driving. And it's not set up to handle big trucks, so we're not going to do it.
Thank you very much. I would check in with Joe if he has the number of rooms anticipated for double.
I've got, Mayor, thank you. On the first floor, I've got the first floor, I have 3 kings and 3 doubles proposed. On the second floor, I have 25 doubles and 5 kings proposed. On the third floor, I have 25 doubles and 7 kings proposed.
Sorry, you're breaking up a little bit. If you can just give me the total, kindly.
Let's see.
So far from the numbers that he's given you, it's at 53 double rooms.
Okay.
25 double rooms on the second floor, 25 on the third floor, and 3 on the first floor. So you're looking at 53. And on the fourth floor, Joe, if you have that number.
Fourth floor is 22 and 7.
So you're looking at a total of 75 out of the 105 rooms that would be considered double rooms with 2 beds in them.
Thank you very much. I have no further questions at this moment. Next up, we have Councilmember Fan.
Thank you. Just a couple of questions. So, I don't know if we covered this already, but there's a lot of us talk that ABC license.
So
if you can-
you're breaking off. I can't hear you.
Hello, can you hear me now? Everybody good? Okay. Yeah. So there's been some prior talk earlier on the ABC license. That's I guess a point of contention. If we can get some clarification as to what exactly is the plan with the alcohol.
Sure, and I'd like to take a stab at answering that. Under the proposal that you have right now, the only thing that was alcohol related was that there was going to be a happy hour where guests of the hotel would have a choice of a beer or wine, and it would not be for sale. In the pantry area, there would be wine and beer for sale to guests only. That's the proposal that you have in front of us. There was some input from the community and some suggestions if we would consider not serving or having alcohol served or sold. And our response to that is, if that is a condition of approval, in other words, will you guys vote to approve this project, but you make a condition of approval as that we don't have alcohol in the hotel, we would sign up for that.
Okay, thank you. That's very helpful, and thank you for your willingness to compromise and collaborate with us here. So there's some of the value proposition that you had previously mentioned is that this hotel is going to be creating jobs. Is there an estimate as to the amount of jobs that's going to be created?
Yes. If you look at our construction plan that we submitted on Tuesday, you see a breakdown of the construction workers that will be on any site at any given time. And you can see the breakdown that the max number of subcontractors and their workers, specifically the number of workers on site, the most it would ever be would be 25 at one time. But we estimate, because of the ongoing nature of a construction project, that there will be over 100 jobs created. We have discussed that with the labor unions, and they concur with that estimate. Our project manager from Allied Partners, who, if you recall, we mentioned did the project management for the new Chase Center for the Golden State Warriors. That is also their estimate about how many construction jobs will be created. Now,
can you repeat that number?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, can you repeat that number?
Approximately 100 construction jobs would be created. Now, to further give you some information, the hotel will create between full-time and part-time jobs approximately between 25 and 30 jobs. That's the estimates that La Quinta gave us. For example, when Mr. Gigantino was working with La Quinta, they flew their executive team out to look at the site, and they gave us their projections for this site. And they estimated that we would create somewhere between 25 and 30 jobs in the hotel industry and another 100 jobs approximately in the construction industry.
Thank you. And now is the applicant also going to be the builder for the project? Or
no, the applicant is not a general contractor. So we would be looking at hiring experienced general contractors with hotel construction experience. We're asking, we're going to be requiring to hire locally. And we want to make sure that a living wage is paid. And that's where we are right now. We didn't want to get too far ahead of ourselves.
Certainly.
So.
Yeah, thank you. And what's the estimated length of time for construction?
It's estimated right now between 20 and 24 months.
20 and 24 months.
So
okay.
approximately
And,
2 years.
And throughout that period, in terms of the workers that you had mentioned earlier, it was 100, right?
100 jobs, but at any one time, there would be 25 workers on site. Because as you know, you face construction projects.
Certainly.
Obviously, you're going to go through a demolition part. You're going to go through foundations. You're going to go through framing. You're going to go through all of the trades. So that's what the union folks that we've been working with have told us.
Yes. Well, I'm delighted that you're in conversations with the unions to try to create some local jobs here. I think that's a very important distinction in terms of these projects and the kind of impact that it does have on the community. Typically speaking, local workers tend to be more sensitive to the neighborhood around them. So when it comes to issues, concerns regarding, the impact that the construction project itself is going to have on the immediate neighborhood, I think that it's definitely a positive value proposition whenever you're considering local hire.
And if I may, council member?
Certainly.
So the final decision is with Mr. Gigantino. But we have met several times with Josue Garcia, who represents several of the unions. And we believe that union workers are better trained and have a better safety record than non-union employers. We're committed to paying a living wage. And we believe that the value that union workers provide can show up in making the schedule, being ahead of schedule, a better safety record, which impacts your insurance rates, your construction insurance rates. So all of these go into the mix, and they have also offered to finance the project as well. None of those decisions have been made, but conversations have been started, and Mr. Gigantino will make the final decisions there.
Certainly, and I'm hopeful that you'll be able to support our working class families at the same time creating a quality project. I think the key word is quality. We want something that isn't put together last minute or really with cheap labor. And
Yes,
that comes, yeah, please.
I'm sorry if I may. You're absolutely right on point. Mr. Gigantino has always, in his business relationships, strive for the highest quality product, both in terms of customer service, both in terms of materials and locations. I would also make mention that earlier it was mentioned how a lot of people don't think as Highway 680 in Jacqueline as one of the gateways to Milpitas. If you notice on your drawings, the project says La Quinta Milpitas. That will be the sign that people traveling up and down 680, people traveling on Jacqueline will see. We're proud to locate in Milpitas. I live in Milpitas, and I'm proud of our city.
Thank you. So the other two issues I want to make sure to address in terms of, I guess, this concern by the residents in regards to crime. While it's not there's no empirical studies that really suggest that crime is caused by hotels. However, in order to maintain our neighborhoods to be as safe as possible, are you guys open, or if maybe you guys are already planning to do it, but having security cameras mounted throughout the perimeter, and if perhaps our police department can have access to that stream?
Absolutely. And if you take a look at your packet in our safety and security plan, we actually hired a safety consultant, a retired former San Jose police officer who has extensive experience in working for hotels and security systems, a gentleman by the name of Mike Lenerger. You also should, and I think you probably already know this, but the City of Milpitas Police Department has one of the finest hotel monitoring programs in the state of California. They actually assign a police officer to be the point of contact between individual hotels. So that police officer is charged with establishing a relationship with the employees of the hotel, that they are welcome into the hotel, that they will be performing license plate checks on people in the parking lot. That is standard operating procedure, and we totally support that because we want a safe place for our guests. We want to be good neighbors, and we want to be an asset to the community. So working hand in hand with our security consultant and the Milpitas Police Department is primary on our goals and what we hope to achieve.
Thank you. And just one last area that I want to cover before we move on. In terms of parking, parking is, I've never quite really advocated for additional parking on any project, really. I think that additional parking really just incentivizes or really gets more traffic. If you can't have it both ways, right? So in terms of parking, one thing that I would ask for though is if you guys are open to some signage that just says don't park in their neighborhoods, and that's I think a relatively small expense in terms of the scope of the project, and I think I'm hoping that will alleviate some concerns in terms of that spillover there. I'm not a professional. I can't parking professional. I wouldn't be able to anticipate the amount of parking that you actually might anticipate in regards to the spillover there, but some signage I think might be helpful.
If I may.
Absolutely.
So yes, the Milpitas Planning Department requires a robust signage program directing people where they can park. We will make sure that the message is clear that violators of that program will be fined and towed. We will do a huge effort to make sure that if we see a guest not parking on the grounds but tries to park in the neighborhoods, that guest will be notified immediately, and they'll be given a time certain amount of time to move their car. Otherwise, we will be calling a tow truck, and the
Ned,
signage will reflect that.
Hey, Ned, did you want to chime in, Mr. Thomas? I do see.
Yes, if I may, thank you. If I could add, maybe add a little more specificity or a requirement to what Mr. Tiernan is saying. it's my understanding that on other projects in the city, we have conditioned them to require a parking monitoring program. And I think that's sort of what he's talking about here. I believe our consultant from Hexagon has worked on some of those monitoring programs. He might be able to add a little bit more detail to how that exactly would work.
I mean,
yeah,
I'm fine.
Okay.
But if
it would be a condition
you guys
of approval for a parking monitoring program.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's pretty much all the questions that I wanted to address. The main thing is that these were concerns that were brought up, and that you are taking efforts to address it. It pretty much addresses what I see are the most important factors there. At this point, if if there isn't anything to be addressed, or if I worry that you do all these compromises and people are still just going to be unhappy, right? Like, the point is that we collaborate and come together and find something that everybody can be okay with. And so far, these compromises have been very reasonable. And so thank you.
If I might, council member?
Yes.
So I appreciate what you just said. But I also would respectfully remind everybody that during the public comment period on Tuesday, we had dozens and dozens and dozens of our supporters call in who lived in Milpitas, maybe not right next to the hotel or within 500 or 1,000 feet, who advocated for the hotel because it was a benefit to the whole community. So I'd like to leave you with that thought.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, both. And next up here with the virtual hand, we have Vice Mayor Nunez.
Thank you. So I'm ready to try two things, Mayor. One is I'm going to go to your to the recommendation for a motion, Ned and Steve and Chris, and you walk me through it. Then I'm going to add something to the end of it, Chris. So if you could pull that one up someplace, Ned or Steve, the one that you wanted us to, because I want to make sure we get it all in.
We'll pull that up now.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay. So I'm going by the one here that's, so adopt a resolution. So that first sentence looked fine to me. It was a conditional use permit to allow the demolition, develop a hotel with up to 105 rooms, up to 4 stories in height. So I'm going by the one you sent us. A tower element. So would that now be, instead of 73 feet, would that be 53 feet?
I don't know the actual number that would be. It would be around that. So if we do an up to number, we can.
Okay, up to 53 feet. And then just put it over on the east side of the building. Is that right? Because you're going to put it on the other side.
Tower
Okay.
element.
Okay. And if you eliminate the beer and wine, and then tell me how to word the part about parking. I like the way, and I think it was Chris who said that they meet the legal requirement. And if we just put that in there, then we didn't have to do anything else.
Ned may want to chime in here. There's probably already a finding that articulates that they've met the required parking. So I don't know if that is a necessary addition.
Okay, then if we don't need to, we don't need to, but I just want to make sure that that's not something to come back and squabble about. Having said that, I think that includes everything that was in the resolution that I saw as number 2 on the paper that you sent us. It does include everything that was in the third dot highlight that you sent. That's on the page in front of us. I'm looking at you, Ned. I know you can't see me looking at you, but does that include everything?
The page I'm seeing doesn't include all of the details, but I believe, and I guess I would have a question for the city attorney if that needs to be, does that need to be specified in new conditions added to the resolution, or condition number 3 of the conditions of approval does say that the applicant will build according to the plans, I think the colored material board, et cetera, as approved or modified by the city council. And does that give us what we need, or do we want to be more specific in actual conditions for those 3 specific things, or I guess 2 specific things, and then we'll just remove the language about the ABC license?
Yeah, what I'd recommend is essentially a modification to condition 3. We can say keep the language, but then at the end just get more specific in terms of what the council member has indicated, or the vice mayor.
So if I heard correctly, that would be to limit the height of the proposed building to 4 stories, to relocate the tower element or parapet to the east side of the building, and to meet the all legal requirements for parking on the site.
Correct. And then the no sale of alcohol, or the no sale of the beer and wine. That's a condition of approval. And I think that captured what I thought, what I had taken notes on, everything that had been discussed.
Just to confirm, there's no confusion. When you say no sale of beer and wine, that would mean the prohibition across the board. So they wouldn't serve it for happy hour, and they'd also not sell it on site, correct?
Correct. And that's what I thought I heard stated.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
So
and then, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Carmen.
So can you make that amendment to say that they will not get, they will not seek a alcohol and business, or what do they call it? Alcohol and a license? Yeah, alcohol license.
Alcoholic beverage control license.
Yeah.
So however you need to word that, Ned, so that it would be no sale or them seeking the license, or whatever words you, so that.
See, my concern is they could, right now, today, they will say, no, they're not gonna sell any, but once you have that license, once you have that license, you have it for life. So you can, next year, they could decide to sell. So this just guarantees that they're not gonna sell any. They're not gonna have the wherewithal to do that.
Okay.
If I may, I can speak on that. So the ABC license, of course, is issued by the state of California. When an application is made to them, they always consult with the local jurisdiction, and we have to give our consent for them to issue that license. And in this case, if this is written in this way, no sale of alcohol on the premises, we would go back to that condition, and then we would tell the ABC board in Sacramento not to issue an ABC license, and no liquor would be able to be sold or served on the premises.
That's it. So sold or served. That's it. Okay. And I think that takes care of it, Carmen. And so if that does this, I want to make sure that what I'm saying is it takes care of, I believe, what the community has said, that it is, it's too tall. I heard from staff with regard to crime and the traffic. I'm choosing to go with what the experts have told us. I choose to believe our own police department. And I'm going with our hired consultants, because I'm looking now at what's happening on California Circle, and what they told us is proving to be true. And that's what I have to go by. I do want to circle back, and this is to Steve and to Chris. What I'd like to do when you bring that back, if we could also on our list, Mayor, is the CWA or CLA, the Community Labor Agreement, which is all those things that Councilman Fan talked about, which was local hiring, local training, hiring, making it's like a PLA, but much more impactful because you're hiring local Milpitas persons. You had said that we have to do that by project. Is that what you had said, Chris?
Yes, but your question to me, I think in that case was specific to a city project. So I was indicating for city projects. If you want to impose a condition of that type on this project, that's something that we would ask the applicant if they're open to, and then to verify what that would actually look like.
Okay.
Let's ask Joe. Let's ask Joe. I know Mark had mentioned Joe earlier, so.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to ask too. It's a good idea.
Hi, thanks for letting me speak. Of course, we'd love for the hotel to hire locally in the Milpitas market. When we had the club, that's where most of our employees came from. We also talked about establishing a program with the local high school for internships. So yes, we would love to hire locally from Milpitas. That's the community that I've been in for over a quarter century, and I would love to hire the local people there to work at the hotel.
So that PLA, you mean, are you referring to a PLA?
No, I don't think there's a PLA for hiring employees for the hotel. If you're talking about construction.
Yes, that's what it's for.
Yeah, I mean, at this point in time, we're in such a new environment with construction that all our numbers have, will need to be reassessed once we come out of this COVID, crisis, and we'll see who's standing and what contractors are still in business. But we have not signed any PLAs at this point, and I think it's premature to even start to look at that until we get an entitlement and then get some numbers and start doing some real number crunching on what it would cost to build this hotel.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Gigantino, and we'll go back to the Vice Mayor before I make my final statement.
Yeah, so I think that we can put that off for now, since that is still something that isn't right in the immediate future, but I think we still need to look at that going forward. And we can mention to MUSD to look to this hotel for some of their educational workforce programs for that hotel for them to work at. But at least for this hotel, everything we need to do, at least for a motion, I think, those are the things I would put forward so that we can act on it hopefully tonight. So that's my motion. Hopefully, Ned, if they ask, you can repeat it back.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. And then it sounds like we're coming to the end here. I want to take a moment here to explain myself where I stand on this item. I know one of the considerations for this kind of conditional use permit is traffic, and our consultant has done their work. Thank you very much. I just think this hotel, if it were to stand, it would be a smashing success. It'd be a hit. I think it'd be sold out every day of the week. I think business would be great. TOT would be everything we would ever want, maybe even more. I just have concerns. The traffic study is something that I very much consider in the area. Is just when I think of all those parking spots, and it's something that we didn't really capture, but it's just something worth noting. And I fully consider the traffic study. I fully consider it, but something worth noting is just for those 105 parking spots, those getting out there. They're gonna go, I think, west. You know, I follow a lot of business in this valley, and all the businesses are towards the west. I think that we haven't had a new hotel proposed on our 680 corridor in probably 40 years or 30 years, however long. I think the embassy there, or actually no, right next to the embassy, that's a newer hotel. But I know.
Wasn't there a motion on the floor?
Well, I'd like to make my statement for the record.
Don't you put the statement after the motion?
And I'm going to state how I'm going to vote. Is it, you know, if I may.
All right.
I do see a lot of vehicles going west towards Silicon Valley through our neighborhoods and towns. You know, on Jacqueline, on Able, Calaveras, or even up through North Milpitas to Dixon Landing, to Tesla, and all these great companies in the area. And so I do have concerns leading to the CUP vote here about the traffic spreading through our community. And I also have great concerns with dominating visual prominence. And so for this project tonight, I'll be voting no. We do have a motion. If anybody else would like to speak, now's your time. If not, I'm gonna give it a few moments. Okay, we have Councilmember Dominguez.
Thank you so much, Mayor, for the time. I definitely want to start off by thanking the applicants and those who have worked with the city on this project, as well as staff. I know you guys have all placed an immense amount of time on this, and I definitely want to thank the public for their feedback, for being engaged in their partnership. And there's nothing more important to me, I think I have stated that many times, is just the community engagement and just transparency. I think sometimes when we move these amazing projects forward, it's just how it begins. And unfortunately, that's how we are able to say how it's going to end. And, you know, Mayor, I do thank you for your sentiments, and I echo everything that you have said. And I do believe that as an elected official, I hold what is the best for the community. And I heard people talk about a lot of things on Tuesday. And as we move forward, I want to make sure that anything that my name and my vote, a track record, also is reflective of our leadership. And so I'm going to be supporting Mayor Rich Tran, and I'm also going to be voting no.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Dominguez, for your deliberation. I don't see any further virtual hands. I'm listening intently if there's any further comment. If not, I will call the motion. We'll go to Chris, if you can spell out the motion for us so that we're fine and clear.
Happy to do so, Mayor. And if Ned, if I miss anything, please feel free to jump in. But the motion on the table would be, and Vice Mayor Nunez, correct me if I'm incorrect, but it would be to adopt a resolution of the City Council of the City of Milpitas upholding the appeal by adopting a mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring and reporting program in compliance with the California Environmental Quality Act, and approving 1, an environmental assessment, 2, a site development permit, and 3, a conditional use permit to allow the demolition of an existing 22,300 square foot commercial building and development of a hotel with up to 105 rooms, with a height of up to 4 stories and a tower element up to 53 feet in height, with the modified floor area ratio of 1.0 according to our planning director, 1 level of below grade parking, the relocation of the wireless telecommunications equipment to the rooftop of the new building, but to the east side of the building towards 680, and the prohibition, so this would be an added condition, prohibiting the on and off premises sale of beer as well as the service of beer and wine at the site. And that, I believe, is all the conditions, with the additional modification to the sale of beer and wine to also prohibit essentially the ABC license, which would be a given if we don't grant the conditional use permit in that regard. but that would be the motion.
We have a motion by Vice Mayor Nunez.
Second.
We have a second by Councilmember Fan. We're going to go to the roll call vote. Councilmember Fan.
Aye.
Councilmember Montano. Councilmember Montano. Hello, Councilmember Montano.
Hello, yeah. I thought I was talking all this time. I thought I was talking, but I thought you could hear me. Okay.
Your microphone was on mute. Now it's no longer
Yeah,
on
it sure was. Okay, I'm sorry about that. So the question was how I was going to vote.
We're doing the vote right now.
Yeah, and I'm saying, and my response was nay. It means no, I do not approve this project. And the reason, and usually how we usually do the protocol, that when there's a motion on the floor, the person seconds it and then we deliberate it. And then when we vote on it, that's when we tell our reasons why we voted yay or nay. So I'm going to tell you now I'm going to tell you why I voted no again for this project. So the reason why I'm voting no against this project is that I understand that the site is zoned for highway services. However, not all highway zones sites warrant hotels to be built there. My concern is the future. Hotels are really nice. It's a nice project. They're really nice when they get built. But I'm thinking long-term, in 20 years, 30 years from now. How do I know that the owner is not going to sell it? How do I know that the new owner will take care of the hotel like the one that like Mr. Gigantino will? So all these things I'm concerned about. I'm also concerned about the ingress and the egress. There's only two ways to get into the site, and I've never heard of reservations beforehand, because usually when I go to a hotel and I see, oh, there's a nice one, a nice hotel off the freeway, so I go there first and see if there's any vacancy in there. But if I was a big trucker, I would probably go over there first and then see. So these are my concerns: the truckers, the buses, and because it's so small to get in there to begin with. Like I said, it's a nice hotel, but it just doesn't. It's not the right. It's just not. It doesn't complement the neighborhood, in my opinion, and I really want to preserve the integrity of the neighborhood. So that's why I'm voting no for this project. So those are my reasons. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Montano. Vice Mayor Nunez.
So since I'm the maker of the motion, I'm voting yes. And I'm voting yes for a number of reasons. One is I've seen that building there for a long time, just sitting there. I think, I don't happen to know the developer, the owner. I didn't have to say yes to getting a donation. But I think he made a lot of accommodations to our requests. And when somebody does that, it tells me they want to become part of the community. And I heard all those persons talk about a person that had been a longtime member of this community. So I think he would have been a good partner. I'm interested now in what's going to be happening to that property. And I'm hoping that he is willing to still do something that is going to contribute to that part of town and to the community as a whole.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. I do want to take a moment here to apologize and say sorry. I am out of line with the roll call on the dais. I am looking at my Zoom and it's throwing me off. I should have went to Councilmember Dominguez, but I will now. Councilmember Dominguez.
Thank you so much, Mayor. Don't worry, we're all getting used to this new way of doing things. But before I know I did deliberate, but I do want to make it clear that I don't doubt that the partnership was a good one. It's the project that I had to assess on facts. And so with that, assessing the facts and also respecting our leader and our mayor, and I am going to be supporting that leadership tonight with a no vote.
Thank you very much for your leadership. And then to me, it'll be a no, and the motion has failed. I want to.
So Mayor, at this point, we'd be looking for an alternative motion. And I think if the motion is to deny the project, the council will need to go through the findings in the resolution and articulate the reasons why staff should draft denial findings.
Okay, I guess I'll kind of repeat my concern. I think the chief one is the dominating visual prominence, and the other is the traffic. But I do want to make it clear that the traffic study is one that has been conducted, one that I respect, one that I am aware, and one that I have great care for. But if there's any thought that's in my mind that may not be applicable within the lines of our business as it should be done, again, I think the hotel is going to be, if it were to be there, a sold out hotel. Our economy will get back and it will be better than ever. And I know we've heard that before from different places, but I do feel that way, especially here in Milpitas in our great valley, probably the best valley in America that we get to be a part of here in this South Bay. And I know that intersection of Hillview and Jacqueline is a tough one. I've made a right turn on Hillview going north during the wrong hours in my younger days in high school. And I did get cited by the Milpitas police. I took care of it, paid it. Didn't turn right there again with my driver's license as a teen. But really, all the hotels that we've approved are in the west side of our community, which is where the biggest business is almost in the world. And I just have a sense that there is a slight thought in my mind that this traffic for this proposed hotel would resonate throughout the whole city and it would really spread almost like a virus. But I don't want to use that as a basis for my reasoning to fully deny this agenda item. I do want to put my focus fairly on the dominating visual prominence. Chris, what more do we need? Do you want to hear more from folks? Can you please guide us?
Sure. So looking at the resolution, there's a couple of different areas. One is there is a need for a conditional use permit.
And then we're going to go to the Vice Mayor and Councilmember Fan as well.
Sure. So one of the requirements is a conditional use permit for a variety of factors. One is the FAR level, which with the 4 stories, we estimate at 1.0 FAR, so they would still require a conditional use permit. There's the relocation of the wireless communications equipment that requires a conditional use permit. And then there's the off sale of, or on and off premises sale of beer and wine. And so there's 3 essential findings that you need to make for a conditional use permit. One is that the proposed use at the proposed location will not be detrimental or injurious to property or improvements in the vicinity, nor to the public health, safety, and general welfare. So I think on that, I would like to hear the council articulate concerns either about the FAR, the wireless equipment or the sale of beer and wine, and why that would not be consistent with the public health, safety, and welfare.
Thank you very much, Chris. We'll go to Councilmember Fan.
And as a reminder, it should be based on the existing record.
I can't, in good conscience, select any of the ones that you mentioned, Chris. And that said, this is a resolution that we would, or that you would be drafting, or
So what we need on the table is another motion. Someone has proposed a motion to approve the project with 4 stories. That motion has failed. We'd be looking for an alternative motion at this point. But if a council, based on what I've heard, is inclined to deny, it would be a motion to direct staff to return with a resolution of denial and denial findings. And so as part of that work that staff will need to do, we'll need to understand the basis of denial from the council.
as part of the,
We've already stated our reasons.
Well, let's hear Councilmember Fan, please. Thank you.
Sure. As part of the packet, or as what is agendized, what can we what can we do instead? Like,
No, staff's recommendation is to approve the hotel, and that is the resolution that's before you.
Right. And so it's not worded in any way that gives us some flexibility as to, at the very least, keep the conversation going as to what to do with the site.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Sure. Is there any way within the confines of how the agenda was worded, for us to keep the conversation going as to what to do with the site, not necessarily the current project and its current plans that have been submitted, but the location.
I think that would be a better question for the appellant, but my understanding is they are bringing forward a proposal for a hotel at 5 stories with an option for 4 stories.
And that's the only alternative option that was put that was submitted for the hearing.
I would defer to our planning director if there's some other option that has been provided, but I'm not aware of one.
Yeah, I guess what I would add, I agree with the attorney that the project that is before you is a 5-story hotel as described in the staff report. And then tonight it was introduced that the applicant might entertain the notion of having 1 less story and moving the tower over. That was to the east side. That was the motion that was before you that was voted on and failed. So I think if I understand correctly, we're looking for a new motion.
Okay.
All right, so Councilmember Fan.
Yeah, just in regards to the findings, then whatever is put into those findings, I would ask that the dissenting views are noted as part of that record.
And thank you very much, Councilmember Fan. And I would like to take a moment to encourage for us, and I will lead this motion, to have our staff, city attorney, go back and do as Chris stated, and then come back to the council. I think that would be best here. But that I'd like to state that, and then defer now to Councilmember Dominguez.
Thank you so much, Mayor, for the time. And so I just wanted to kindly go back on Chris's question to us regarding why we are moving towards denying the conditional use permit. In my perspective, in my view, based on all the material that I have reviewed, including staff's report and Tuesday's deliberations, I do believe that this project does not withstand and it will be detrimental to the endangerment of our neighborhood in this particular side of town in terms to the safety component. And so in terms of the report and the findings that were provided, and I don't doubt that our police department is doing an amazing job. I also know that the numbers that were shared with us are not actually accurate. And the reason that they're not accurate is because the call volume and calls for service does not really reflect those in the data that was provided. And we know that because we know that not all crimes are reported. And so if you actually had all crimes reported, you would probably see a scale in where it's increasing in those numbers, and therefore it's jeopardizing the safety of the members in that community with an easy access to 3 different points of exit if their crime did occur. One would be the freeway, the other would be the west side of that street, and then also the other side of the street. So you could go west, east, west, or you could move on to the freeway. And so we do know, based on the information that was provided, that hotels in the city of Milpitas, we do have a couple that unfortunately the numbers for certain kinds of crime that may not be reflected in this report because they are not type 1 crimes. And therefore, not everything is reflected in this system that is used by law enforcement agencies. And so based on that information that has been captured and that I was able to share, that I used to examine this project, I do feel very strongly and confident that the public safety of our community would be jeopardized. The second would be the visual provenance, which echoes a lot of the information that was shared already. So I'm not going to go into depth for that, but the visual provenance is another one. And the environmental impact report, I don't believe there was a full one, and it was shared by staff and also our consultants, that the reasons why they did not do a full environmental impact report. And I wish we would have done a thorough one with those extra, maybe we would have had extra findings. And so I don't feel that there is adequate access to the roads and the traffic. And so at this point, those would be the points that I am basing my no vote on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Dominguez. I'd like to, if I don't hear anybody else, I do want to be respectful, and there's a virtual hand out there or somebody that would like to, from the council, speak. Okay, I'm just listening and looking, hearing, of course. So I'd like to make a motion for our city attorney to produce some work on the grounds to deny and then present it to us at the next city council meeting. And that way we can have a fair opportunity for our great city attorney to do his work at the direction of the council. Chris?
So Mayor, we'd be looking for a motion to direct staff to return to the city council with a resolution of denial. I've heard from the council, 2 council members concerned about dominating visual provenance, a concern about safety, and a concern about the environmental analysis. Is there anything else? You could. Yes,
Councilmember Montano, did I hear something?
Yeah, I had mentioned my reasons earlier, the egress and the regress into the site. My concern about future owners, 20, 30 years from now. And also the childcare is another issue. The childcare centers, there's another issue. And of course, traffic. And I've lived in Milpitas nearly all my life, and I know that there's one particular hotel that there's been murders there.
Uh-oh, no.
And you know, yeah, it was when, because Jim Murray, our chief of police, him and I were really, really good friends. And so I knew a lot of the things that happened in our city. The hotel was a nice hotel, but as years progress, if they're not maintained, they wind up attracting, bad elements. So, and I don't want that to happen with this hotel. So I look at that too, but mostly it's the changing of ownerships in 20, 30 years from now, who knows? And I just want to make sure that the integrity of that neighborhood is preserved. And like I said, just because it's a highway services does not warrant that a hotel be built there. It's up to the city council. It's up to the whole aura or of the community. So it's, to me, it's the neighborhood. I know that originally it was hotel services, but the prior council had decided to build a neighborhood there. So to me, that changes the whole formula. So that's why I'm voting against this, and for the traffic increase and all these reasons why I'm against it. I want to preserve the integrity of the neighborhood.
Thank you so much, Councilor Montano. So we have members that have provided their input, Chris.
Mayor, what I'll do is we'll work on a draft. There may be some areas that we'd still want you to think about. And so we will return at your next council meeting and we will ask for your further input.
Okay, so I put the motion on the floor, needing a second.
I second.
We have a second by Councilmember Dominguez, and then we'll do a roll call vote here. Councilmember Fan.
Nay.
We have Councilmember Montano.
This is to vote for the resolution, right? Yes, yes.
Correct. Councilmember Dominguez.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Nunez.
No.
And then myself, it would be a yes. The motion is carried. Is that enough for you, Chris? You need anything else?
No, thank you, Mayor. It gets me started on the resolution, but like I said, there will be some areas that we'd want you to think about a little bit more, and we'll walk you through that at your next council meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's precisely our great intent and due diligence. Appreciate the business. Okay, and so thank you, everybody, for being together tonight as we continue to make tough decisions in this time of great challenges throughout not only Milpitas with the news of number of infected residents, but also every community around our nation and the world. And on this Friday night, I commend every single person in the planning department, our partners, our consultants, our business partners. And I have full faith that Mr. Gigantino will continue to look to do amazing things here in Milpitas. This, I believe, will open up opportunities as there's always been tremendous opportunity for our business owners in town. Thank you so much. I'm gonna go to our city manager, Steve McHarris. If there's any final statements, I'm gonna look to adjourn this meeting.
There are no statements from staff. Thank you.
Okay, fantastic. Hey, let's go to Councilmember Fan. I see a virtual hand.
Yes, I just wanted to make a quick note and say thank you to the planning staff on the project. I know that you've had to do this, I guess, well, twice. Well, 3 times if you include this continuation, but your efforts are appreciated. So I wanted to note that. And lastly, just to the applicant, I know you're obviously disappointed, but I hope that it doesn't discourage you to explore future opportunities with the city, and hopefully we can all come to agreement on a project that we can all agree on.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Fan. And then we'll go to Vice Mayor Nunez.
Thank you. So I know that Councilman Fan would take care of the kind words to the applicants. So I'd like to talk to the 5 of us on council and remind you of the words that Carmen always tells me, that after we go through these kinds of votes, that tomorrow's a new day. There'll be other
Right,
issues.
Vice Mayor, yeah.
That's right. And she reminds me, you know, Bob, there's going to be
Still
the
a
same
team.
kind of vote. That's right. We're still a team. We're still got to stick together because the same kind of issues we'll face tomorrow and next week and next month. Get over this one so we can face the ones tomorrow together as a team of 5. And so that's the way I look at it. Tomorrow we will have another challenge that it'll take 5 of us to do, and 6 and 7 with Chris and you, Steve. So we will face those issues as soon as we get up in the morning. And so Carmen, I thought of those words, and I thank you for those. And I thank all of you for walking us through this. And, you know, tomorrow's a new day and another challenge. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Vice Mayor. Heartfelt words.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. Okay, this
Absolutely.
meeting. Oh, hey. Oh,
So
any
sorry.
hands?
Oh, I was trying to reach the hand.
Okay.
Before it ends, I definitely want to echo everybody's sentiments and thank you guys all. But I also want to just, if I could kindly put a plug for our Parks and Rec department. So I have an egg up here, and it's just because we're doing our virtual egg hunt. So please don't participate this weekend. Share the pictures with all 5 of us in the spirit of building a stronger community. Thank you guys all for being community. Thank you for being with us. I know it's been long hours and everything else. I echo, we're one team, and I hope everyone has a good night.
Fantastic, fantastic, absolutely. Okay, well, I see Councilor Montano happily smiling, and
So I just want to thank all the council members. I know we all did our due diligence. We did the research. We heard from both sides, and we all respect each other for the views that we gave. I appreciate everybody's, the different paradigms, why they felt this way and why that person felt that way. And it's good to deliberate. It's good to get different points of view. So I really appreciate everyone and respect everyone. And I also appreciate Mr. Gigantino and his team for all the hard work that they did as well. So thank you very much.
fantastic. On that note, this meeting is adjourned.
Stay safe, everyone.
Be safe. Happy Easter.
Oh yeah, and happy Good Friday too.
Yes.